最後まで諦めないさやり続けることに
Show me your Nen. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I am your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
My Nen ability is to die. I'm dead.
The greatest power. Alright, getting right into comments. We both have comments this time. So you want to start?
Yeah. So I think I only have the one comment.
Oh, you only have one? That's fine. I probably have the same one, but go ahead.
Well, then what's your comment? I gotta know.
No, I have lots, but I probably have that one as well, is what I meant to say. Sorry.
Okay. Alright, so there was the comment. Well, it was kind of like a couple of different comments, and then also like one main one. Like the main one I'm responding to is one from like Jellicock Respawn or whatever.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one. Actually, weird.
Yeah, it's a relatively newer one. It was like, I don't know. Anyways,
I might have. Yeah, I went through like the other day because we weren't able to record yesterday, but I did go through the comments the day before that, so maybe. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was. I just wanted to more so respond to like, I don't know. Last episode I was kind of weird about, like not wanting to oversell how good Hunter x Hunter is, but also recognizing that it's my favorite. You know, it's like my favorite. It's my favorite anime, and it could be my favorite manga after we read it. So I don't know. At this point, like I don't know. I was using a lot of like weird, probably unnecessary qualifiers. And I know, like, this comment sort of talked about, like, oh, it felt like you were walking on eggshells, trying not to say anything too positive or too negative. For me, personally, I just don't really have many negative thoughts about Hunter x Hunter, so it's not like I'm walking on eggshells, not wanting to say anything bad, because I figure, like, even if I have a criticism with anything, there will probably be someone in the comments who, if they have a different opinion, they can bring it up, and we can have a discussion through there. So I'm not really worried about being too negative on Hunter x Hunter. The fact is just that I don't have any negative thoughts to say. And as far as, like, the positivity, I probably don't need to, like, restrain myself as far as, like, giving Hunter x Hunter a lot of praise. It's just more that, like, I definitely don't want to do the, all the other Shounen are bad to make Hunter x Hunter look good comparison.
Yeah, you wouldn't throw anything under the bus anyway. So that's fair. But anyway, for my comments, a couple of people did suggest updates and corrections to my big list of shonen. I literally haven't like fully updated it in a while. Like Hidemaru Zumo was still marked as ongoing when it did in fact end. So yeah, if anyone notices stuff like that, just message me and I'll get around to fixing it. So this one's actually from my server, but in a sort of I was linked to it by Pablo on my server. Yeah. There was a question and answer thing where Togashi mentioned that, so the reason for the genre change in Yu Hakusho, he was inspired by Kinnikuman, which started out as a sort of, like, Ultraman parody gag thing. I know he's, like, fighting kaiju and stuff, and then it becomes the wrestling, action, combat series that it's known for being, rather. And I guess I also should have thought about it, but I guess Dragon Ball was more of a like gag comedy adventure with some action for sure, but then it very much becomes full-blown action later. So like these are literally like some of the most important battle series in Jump, like as far as like influence and especially popularity when it comes to Dragon Ball, which was a worldwide success. And Kinnikuman, I believe, like, did a lot of things Dragon Ball did as well, and probably first. Like, it had power levels and form changes and stuff. Or at least the one. So, like, yeah, Togashi saw these and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that too. I guess he did it deliberately where, I guess, like, with Dragon Ball, it was a suggestion from the editor or the fans like the battles and stuff, so he did more of it, and Kinnikuman, I don't know the exact story as to why, but, yeah. Probably should have thought about Dragon Ball.
I know.
So Sasuke, Shoto. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Well, I know just on the topic of like references or other works being potentially inspired by other works or even directly inspired. I know there were a lot of comments just like mentioning Toriko. About the whole like gourmet hunter things, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about Toriko. I couldn't have mentioned it.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that was the direct inspiration, but it's like, yeah, sure, it's Toriko is different enough that I enjoyed it. I need to reread it, honestly, but like, yeah, it's kind of, you could say it takes this like one little like thing from Hunter x Hunter and then makes an entire 40-volume series. Like, it's longer than Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, I know that like there was a comment saying that the author of Toriko never like mentioned Togashi as an inspiration, but it's still like a funny coincidence, I guess.
Also, I don't know when they happened relative to each other, but they both have this kind of, like, I guess it happens at the very end of the anime, so it's not a spoiler, but they both have the human world is only 30% of the actual planet, and there's a giant other, like, part of the world. The difference is with Toriko, we've actually seen it because the series is over. Though I do think, like, well, because, like, Magi also had a dark continent, but I'm pretty sure, like, at least the oldest series I know of that has, like, a hard mode section of the planet was probably One Piece with the Grand Line. So, I don't know. I don't know what the origin of that trope was, really, but that's just what comes to mind. So as I was saying, Sasuke Shoto fan, who is still Sasuke Shoto fan in my heart, he's like, no, call me Sasuke Hiei fan, and I'm like, ha ha ha, no. So yeah, he did write the Sasuke Kurapika write-up, and he had another big comment with even more things he's discovered since then. One thing I thought was interesting, how Togashi and Kishimoto actually had the same editor. So like, I guess the editor, like maybe he's like, oh, maybe the editor gave them some similar suggestions, but the Red Eyes and Vengeance Clan thing was definitely not one of them. And like the post I linked said, ninja tropes is a much more reasonable, origin for those tropes, basically. So apparently I'm a senile boomer because Ash's hat, I said it was from his dad. Like, I thought they said that in, like, the episode is the Mankey stole it or something like that. But then no, they're like, no, it's a sweepstakes. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I watched that episode before most of you were born. No, that's probably an over-exaggeration, but still, I watched it when it was going. And I'm like, why do I remember? Because I remember other people talking about it too. Where did I get this idea? Where did it come from? Because I don't... ongoing mystery. And last one I had to talk about was, unless you had anything to add on to either of those, Gabriel Wright talked about Tonpa and his sort of like his desire relative to the rest of the arc, because he has a desire to see others fail, but like in order to keep doing his own thing, he has to stop what he's doing. Basically, like he never, and he kind of ultimately, like his desire to see others fail is outstripped by the other's desire to win. Basically, which is why he just ends up like he doesn't even do anything. Like he doesn't successfully rookie crush this arc. I guess maybe with Nicholas, really. Because he got the guys to bully him, and so he was the first one to fail, and that was it. That was
but everyone else, their will was too strong,
especially the boys. But yeah, that was all my comments. It's probably gonna be a shorter episode, obviously, but I
famous
say that.
Last words.
Didn't I say that before Sabaody, and it turned out to be one of the longest episodes we've done of One Piece at the time, even though it was like 20 chapters? I think so. Alright, so, getting right in, they arrive sort of at the town near, Kukuru Mountain, I think it's, yeah, that's what it's called. They take the tourist bus to go to the assassin hideout. There's a little bit with some guys who want to break in, and they get the key, and they get eaten. And yeah, we get a training.
I do like I do kind of like the layers to this mansion. Like it does kind of set up as it appears as though like it's setting up like a potential. See, that's sort of that's something I picked up throughout this reading and just like thinking about other arcs. A lot of like these earlier Hunter x Hunter arcs kind of seem to build to anti-climaxes in a way for the finale. Like it. So, like, the Hunter exam does the whole, like, the reverse tournament, and then we only actually see one fight, and then we just, like, skip to the end. and it feels unsatisfying because like that's kind of the point. With this arc, it seems to set up like, oh, we got to go in and we got to rescue Killua from the Zoldyck family, but that's not actually what happens. They just let him go willingly. And so I guess like if you were looking at this, which I mean, like I'm sure definitely readers at the time definitely would have expected this to be like, oh, the next big arc. And you know, it I don't know, it definitely carries that kind of vibe that this is the next mission we got to do. And then like
I would say like, what I was gonna say with Heaven's Arena, I was really surprised reading it because like Golden fights Ahsoka and like they built up all the floor masters and shit, and I'm like, oh, are they gonna keep? And then like they're just like, nah, we're done, let's leave, and I'm like, wait, what? You can't do that.
Yeah, it does. The funny thing about like Heaven's Arena is it does the thing where like, you know, it's the end of an arc. It's a bit different than like the end of a story, but like it doesn't have the falling action. Like the fight ends and it's like, okay, we're done, but we're going on to the next thing.
Right. Well, I guess you could say the falling action is the stuff on.
I guess technically the falling action is like the build up to the next arc.
Right. Like it's like falls and rises, I guess. But still, it's.
But okay, so this does actually bring me to like just the topic of, because there were some comments talking about like how I mentioned foreshadowing last time, like when I said about like Gon having to potentially choose like that. Okay, yes, that I overblew. Like I doubt that that's foreshadowing for anything. Maybe. And if it is, like maybe he could look back at it in retrospect and add on it. But
I was about to say not retroactive foreshadowing.
Like, yeah. Whereas like in this stretch of chapters, there is definitely some blatant foreshadowing, and then there are some other things that are just like, you know, the details about the floor master. Like it's set up, but it's not. You know, it's just kind of a detail about the world, and like there's a lot. Okay, that's more of a Heaven's Arena discussion, I guess. So I'm jumping ahead. But to finish this thought, like there are details here that he does come back to later, but probably weren't foreshadowing, which I think is interesting because like he like plants the seeds, like he leaves the open-ended possibilities, and it's like, well, maybe if there's a chance I'll come back to this later. Whereas there's definitely some stuff foreshadowing with Gon's character arc when they're learning about Nen and stuff.
Writing it's a gradual process. Like, you know, I've definitely seen people who think that it's like, oh, a story comes out of the author's mind fully formed or an ideal story, and that they should have planned everything, but that is not how writing works at all. Speaking as someone who has written, there's a lot of subjective and like, what's the word? Emergent aspects that just sort of come about. And those are my favorite parts of writing, honestly, is when something unexpected happens naturally. So obviously I can't say what is like something that happened naturally or, you know, something that he planned. You know, only Togashi would know, but it's like, it's not as, it's not, Togashi planned everything. Yeah, that's probably overstating it. But the ability to, like, that's one thing I love about One Piece is that he's able to bring back these old things.
There was a Mr. Mord's video about, like, how Oda ties in details with One Piece. And, like, I liked how he approached it because he took it from the perspective of, like, well, maybe he started from this thing and then connected this to this. Or maybe he started from this other point and then connected detail. So, like, looking at it from different... You know, it just shows that like writing isn't, you know, it's a process where like you can it's not a linear process. You can jump around and tie things back at any point. Right.
Exactly. But yeah, so back to the actual arc. Before we go too off topic.
I'm sorry.
So no, it's fine. I like that. It's just I mean, it's gonna be a short arc discussion, so we'll see. But yeah, they have to go through the door. You know, basically the mansion is just a general like proving ground to keep, you know, because there's so many weak shits who come after them. They try to call ahead to the mansion, but Killua has no friends. And of course Gon is pissed off.
Another little detail that I like, now that I've gone through Yu Yu Hakusho and seen parts where like Togashi will just randomly drop random illustrations in his stories, I find it really interesting and kind of funny whenever you get like you get like the female referees, or you have like the tour guide here. And it's just interesting because like Togashi has made comments about like sometimes he'll be like too indulgent in his taste or whatever. And so like seeing some of these character designs now, I just can't help but like remember that some of those comments, and it's just like, Togashi, I see what you're doing here.
Yep, you just wanted to draw this woman right now, didn't you, huh?
And it's also funny because like they do show up in the anime. It's not like one of those, sometimes like background characters or whatever get changed, or they have different designs when they're adapted into the anime. But I just imagine Togashi using his pull, like, no, you gotta have them in there.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a good moment where the gatekeeper takes going to see Mike, and the fucking panel where you just see Mike like looming over Gon, like, Togashi's art, like, you can't just say, like, don't read the manga, just watch the anime, like, no, they're both good.
Well, yeah, because I think there are times where just the pure black and white manga imagery makes things all the more like chilling, or it carries a definite, it carries a stronger effect to it, and this panel is definitely one of those.
And also because, like, as a reader, you can choose how much you linger on a single panel, page, word, and so, like, on a more higher detail page like that, you'd linger a bit, where the anime, you're kind of stuck to however long they want you to see it, because it's just, or unless you pause it, which is, like, that suddenly the music and voice goes away, so it's not really equivalent, so, yeah, and I do like how it turns out for Gon, because, he's, like, he is this, wide-eyed kid experiencing the world for the first time, and he's thinking, yeah, animals, I'm good with animals, but no, this is different. He's a trained beast, not a wild animal. Like, Gon's like, yeah, I can reason with the wild animal, but, like, he's learning something about his limits, and is, it's good.
Yeah, and that's another aspect of this little section that I think is just, like, cool little characterization, because you do have that stubbornness from Gon where he's like, I'm going to do this thing and no one is stopping me. So initially he's like, I'm not going to take this test, like, that friends shouldn't be tested, but then he as he runs into different little conflicts, like obviously the butlers don't let him through, and then there's Mike, and he doesn't want to inconvenience others at the same time, but he doesn't lose that stubbornness, so it's like just seeing him have to work around try to problem solve while also just being the stubborn charge straight ahead character that he is. So then he eventually comes to the realization that, like, okay, we have to be tested, and that pisses me off.
Right, he's still greedy, he wants it a certain way, but he also accepts reality as it is. And yeah, I didn't mention it, but I did like the bit where he stops trying to climb over the wall because he didn't realize that the gatekeeper would get in trouble too, and he doesn't want to inconvenience this random person. But he also has his goals and he wants to fulfill them. But yeah, anyway, they go through and, they're allowed to train. I kind of mentioned it last time, but I thought it was interesting how, like, Leorio's physically he's the strongest. I guess he's also the oldest too, so that might make, be part of why. But yeah, I just thought it was neat. They do the training, Gon heals up. It was a bit longer in the anime. I don't remember if it was if there was anything added in particular.
I know a moment that happens in the anime that's different than in the manga is like Gon still has his in the manga his arm just heals off screen. Whereas, in the manga, you see him, he takes it out of the sling, and then, all three of them push the door open together, and it's teamwork. So that's, a slight
I remember that
difference.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to remember, because I knew it was different. I knew there was more training.
What's also interesting, I guess just per the way of manga having more text in general, manga handles information differently due to, it being the medium that it is. And so you have a detail that Leorio was able to get through the second door, but that's never mentioned at least not in the 2011 anime. It's never mentioned. And it is a little detail that maybe it doesn't mean anything because, I'm not quite sure. Obviously the 2011 anime was able to cut it out and it didn't really change anything.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, a tidbit that otherwise is just kind of there.
So I just kind of realized something. So moving ahead a little bit, there we get the little backstory for the one random dude who's just there, and he brought a whole bunch of dudes, and they were all taken out by a 10-year-old. And sort of one thing I just kind of realized, or one thing I just thought about right now, rather, is Hunter x Hunter is all about desires and stuff, and here you have the Zoldyck family, where even just a photograph of them gets you a shitload of money. So you have a lot of people coming to this place, but it's also, Kukuru Mountain is it's a higher level, basically. These guys are Nen users. They're way, you kind of even see it later with Killua at the second Hunter exam, where he just destroys everyone, and somebody put, it was a huge showing, and yet people still there was a narrative or narrator mentioning that a lot of these people gave up on being hunters. They saw the wall ahead of them and it was too big. And Kukuru Mountain kind of offers that in where all these people come and that most of them die. This is them. They're going from Route 1 Pallet Town, and then they're taking a shortcut and going to Victory Road. Or they're trying that. They're trying to break down these walls, and then they're getting their asses beat because they got level 10 Charmander. Ooh, yeah, fucking Onyx, bitch. Level 50, fucking yeah. It's ridiculous. It's a giant spike. So but the main characters have the strongest desire. So they're literally they're just being helped along so they don't fucking die, and they are a sensitive thing because they're connected to Killua. So yeah, I just thought about that, and I hadn't considered that before, really, how it is kind of neat. Because you especially see with Canary, and she's a wall, an unpassable wall for Gon, and ooh, that's a good scene. More
yeah,
good
and
panels.
so Gon's solution to coming up against a wall is to just bash his head against the wall until the wall breaks.
Right, emotionally, because she's still just a girl. A child rather, a little girl, and then the difference between you and Mike is that she's a human with a soul, emotions, and she, we get the. There's
flashback
in the anime, but yeah, go on.
Well, I was gonna say there's a tiny little art detail where when she first appears, her eyes are just black, she doesn't have a pupil or anything. But when
you're right,
but then when Gon mentions Killua, you have the tiny little white dot, which is to show there's the little shine that he mentions, and at that point he's okay, I know that you're a person, I know that you have a soft spot for Killua, so at that point he knew that he had it, he was gonna.
Yeah, well, because specific, going back through the pages, the first time she has the dot is actually when her facade starts to crack. She's beating the shit out of Gon, and specifically it's when Kurapika and Leora don't help at all. They just keep watching. And after that she's got this shocked face. That's the first time she had the soul. She's having humanity. It's she's seeing that this person's getting seriously injured, doing just walking forward, and no one's gonna help him. She's alone here trying to deal with Gon, and that's the first time and then of course she gets the full on very more detailed eyes when she's crying about Killua and saying that he needs to be helped before she gets shot. Ooh, it's good.
It's just a little moment, but it has so much character to it, and that's part of why Hunter x Hunter is just really good.
It is. And then, of course, we get the mother and little brother. I think he's older. He's older than. Well, of course, at this point, we don't know I don't even. Do we get a name or?
Yeah, I don't even know if they technically get. Wait, no, maybe they. No, because I think. Sorry, yeah, because then it jumps around. I'm trying to see if they. I know that this character's name is Kaluto, but I don't know if...
Okay, that
okay,
was
yes,
name.
yes,
okay.
They are named here.
Okay, gotcha. There's so many siblings and their names are all kind of alike that I do have get tripped up trying to remember them all. Except for obviously the super important ones.
I was gonna say, if you want to remember the trick, their names have similar sounds that lead into each other. So it's Ilu, Milu, Kilu, Alu, Kaluto.
Neat. I was, as you were saying that, I was oh yeah, you're right. I think you're right. And then yeah, neat. You said it. But yeah, I also just remember that I don't think they actually have any, like, biological daughters. Alika is obviously a character we'll certainly talk about later, but like Kaluto especially express like looks like you see him, but I don't remember his exact, like, I'm pretty sure he identified. I don't know. That's a whole thing that we'll talk about later. But
yeah, Kaluto's one of those characters that doesn't get a ton of screen time. Like they do come up later, and I think there's a little more information to go on. But even then, like, there are some things that get hinted at later in the manga, and like this is a character that I want to know more about. That, like, I'm just waiting to get more screen time.
Yeah. Right,
because, like, there's a lot of interesting potential.
Yeah, well, the Zoldyck family is definitely interesting, and their dynamics. Like, there's even a line in here where I can't even remember the mother's name right now. I'm so terrible. The Zoldyck family sure is interesting. I don't know half their names. Like, what am I saying? But she even says, like, oh, you don't understand the family dynamic. You must watch Alexander's video to understand it. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Oh, man. But yeah, they're told that Killua is indisposed, and he gave them a message that thanks for coming to see me, but the
mother also just has like this really, I don't know, like, it's a very eerie character design where she has, like, she's got like the dress, but then also like her face is all covered in bandages, and she's got like that robotic eye looking thing, which I'd imagine is like a result of when Killua attacked her, but it's never
bandages maybe, but I kind of figured that, like, because she did get stabbed in the face apparently by Killua, so like I don't no, haven't we seen her in flashbacks with the eye thing too?
Yes. Oh yeah, that's right, we did.
Yes, so the bandages maybe, but the eye thing was definitely I was comparing, like, later on I was thinking about it, and like, because usually characters without human eyes are meant to be like eerie or off, like Darth Vader is a good example. Like, his mask has eyes, but they don't look like eyes at all, so he seems more alien and human and threatening as he's an antagonist with a fair amount of presence. And mostly I thought it was interesting in comparison to Silva, because Silva is ultimately the one who resolves the arc. He tells Killua to go, and he's the one presented as a human, where here Killua's mom is getting in the way, and she's presented as more inhuman. Because of like that big mask and the bandages covering her face. Like, she only has a mouth as far as human features go, and it makes her, so that was just something I'd considered from later regarding just their designs. And eyes are also super important, like, because you were talking about like the shine in Connery's eyes, and like Illumi never has had that shine. He's always had these big creepy bug eyes because they're just so like hollow. And he's also, like, the biggest piece of shit in the family as far as, like, Killua was concerned. So, yeah.
And, like, I think a lot of the intrigue with the Zoldyck family, or at least it will be until the manga is finished and we know exactly what all there is to unravel with this family. A lot of it is sort of just, like, maybe not outright stated, but a lot of, like, implied. Like, I remember, with like Alexander's videos, like, there are things that I don't remember ever being officially stated, but like connections between like Illumi and their mother, or there's like a connection with Kaluto and Killua and Aluka potentially that is in the manga, but it's like I don't think something that's been elaborated on yet. And so like I don't know, it's just
that's right, you're talking about the big chart, right?
Yes,
that shows all. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and it does have lines between characters. Yeah, we haven't seen anything for. I forgot about that.
So I don't know if I'd necessarily say, like, I don't know, like there are definitely aspects of it where Togashi is just like really good at like implying these character dynamics through like the interactions he gives out. Like he's good at giving a lot of information or a lot of like potential hints or whatever in like very little screen time. Like, he makes things very dense and interesting to look into. And of course, like, when we have that information, it'll be more to say like, oh, what all was meant to be implied, or what was maybe just like fan speculation. Because I have heard like some interesting fan theories about certain characters, but again, those are just theories, and until they're confirmed or denied in the story itself, there's only so much to, I guess, really dig into with them.
Yeah, and I do want to say, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to read or watch Hunter x Hunter analysis before we finish, but, like, if you, like, oh, remember this point brought up in this video or something like that, feel free to, because you might remember it more than more well than I have, so, just throwing that out there. But yeah, we'll get more into the Zoldicks in the later arc, for sure. The last discussion, so, sadly, But anyway, so there's, like, another, like, a single, like, cover panel that was adapted into, like, a full half an episode in the 2011 adaptation with Canary's little backstory with Killua, where, you know, Killua wants a friend, but she's a servant, and thus cannot be his friend. Like, I was kind of talking about it last time, where how Killua's never really had... Like, I didn't know... I'd kind of forgotten about her, because, like, yeah, here's a child, someone roughly his age, that he could have connected to, but obviously he couldn't. He really, at the end of the day, like, they're servant and master. Like, it's a different relationship where, you know, he caught on to Gon because, like, they're peers, they're equals. Gon doesn't care about his, like, family or his history or, you know, assassins or anything like that. He's just another kid, and so... You know, Killua has a reason to be emotionally, you know, to connect to this person because, like, he finally has someone who's equal to him, who's not older or anything. And, yeah, this pedal is just, like, now we see her side of it where, you know, yeah, she does have an attachment to Killua because, you know, but she can't act on that or anything. So, but anyway, we get the bit with Killua and Miliki, the fat, useless brother, Useless is probably maybe overstating it, but he's definitely incompetent next to the rest of the family. But I like the part where he's, like, threatening Killua's friends, and Killua, like, literally snaps one of the chains, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and fucking try. Like, he's only doing this to appease, like, and it really says a lot about Killua's character, because, like, he's letting himself suffer for his family to, like, appease them, even though he doesn't, like, care. Or, like, you know, he has the power to subvert them, like, especially, like, later on, when he completely goes against them. But, like, here, it's like he has the power to subvert Miliki, at least, but he's not doing it because, you know, there's this family dynamic that he has to adhere to. And, but once, like, now that he finally has a desire, he has something he wants, you know, a friend, now it's a little different. The family dynamic is changing, and Miliki is not ready for it. And so as Zeno steps in and he's like, yeah, let's stop this before this gets worse. Good moment.
Yeah, but it also kind of shows, like, this, and then also the interaction with Silva kind of shows that you know, I mean, obviously Killua has grown up in, like, an abusive family situation, where they're, like, training him to be an assassin, but also just, like, you know, torturing him and all that. Like, we find out later with stuff like electricity and stuff, like, he's been through the ringer.
Yeah.
But it also,
I mean, before,
it also
like, with
does...
poisons, right.
It also shows, like, you know, like you mentioned, like, Killua is still back here, not because, you know, he actually feels bad, but because, like, you know... He feels like he deserves something because, like, so it's more like on behalf of the family that he is back, and it shows a little more of, like, the psychological effect of, you know, the abuse and everything that he, you know, the family situation that he was raised in, which
right, he's still trapped by this family in more than a few ways, and that's something. They're a shitty family. Like, they're literally torturing this actual child. He could take it because they fucking built him to take it. Like, but no, it's interesting storytelling. Because yeah, it's good. It's good.
And I mean, it is a part of Killua's character arc because you know, there's obviously stuff more with Illumi later, but even when you see like when they're learning Nen and Wing shows off, like, his you know, like, he shows off the murderous intent or whatever, where he's like, I don't know.
Yes, and Killua has a stronger reaction, yeah.
Yeah, like, Gon just kind of stands there and is like, oh, I'm spooked. But Killua, like, literally jumps and, like, clings to the wall, which is, like...
I didn't think about that, because, like, Killua has a stronger sense of danger, but when you think about it, like, the family has never willingly put him in danger, so the danger that Killua, like, is expecting has been inflicted by his family.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up. Holy, I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was trying to like get across.
That's true. Yeah,
Because like I don't know, I have some friends who've been in maybe not literally this like overblown abusive family things, but
no actual human had, but that it's a shonen, it's exaggerated. But yeah,
but yeah, like I definitely know people who have been in family situations that are, like I said, not this exaggerated, but were abusive and were traumatic. Yeah. And so coming back to this is interesting with that perspective in mind, because I mean, and thinking about like how it affects Killua's character later. Oh, and just the moment where Silva, this fucker, because he's like, go and never abandon your friends, and he says all this, but it's just so that like it'll make Killua a better assassin to inherit the family business. So even then, he's not like actually doing it for Killua's sake. He's still being the manipulative shit.
Yes, it's a facade for like it's appearing to give Killua what he wants when really what Killua wants doesn't matter. He's a Zoldyck. He's got like he's got to come and he's their biggest talent. Like at this age he's so amazing. But like hell, in just like a couple years time, a little bit more than a year's time, he's already like got like a lot of capability with Nen, and he's like fucking able to escape them on it when they're definitely trying to get him.
Yeah. So
at least to a point. Yeah, so it's like he's competent and very talented, but pieces of shit.
Yeah, like this little moment with Silva almost bothers me more than the actual like physical abuse, because this is more like maybe there is a degree of like genuineness behind it, but it's still manipulative in just a different way. It's almost like saying I don't know. It's almost like Silva's.
It's the carrot to the stick.
Yes,
basically. And like there's a very big stick behind this carrot. It seems nice because it's a carrot, but like, ooh, yeah, no, I get you. And well, I guess I want to talk about this moment because when I was first reading the series, so I'd already been I was kind of into it with the badge hunt. That's where I kind of went like, oh yeah, this is neat. This is cool. This moment, this is really where probably the strongest subversion of my expectations, because it's a rescue arc, okay? Like, I think the biggest comparison I had at the time was actually Shaman King, which outright has this sort of family dynamic thing. The characters go there, and they have the big old fighting with the head of the family to save him. Mm-hmm. And that's not a dismissive towards Shaman King. I haven't read in a while. And rescue arcs are also, super common, as we've talked about. Actually, I'm wondering, did Rave have one? Because if not, or I don't know. Well, I know they've rescued some people, but I don't know if they had an outright rescue arc. But we've had a lot of them on the Nen Show. But what were you gonna say?
Well, I was thinking, like Sasuke retrieval is obviously like the biggest one that jumps to mind.
Enies Lobby, Whole Cake Island, Arrancar, Soul Society.
So it, again, kind of going off of things we said last time. It's not that Hunter x Hunter is never subversive. Because it does have that kind of like rescue arc format.
Yeah.
But it's more just as a way to like introduce the Zoldyck family and setting up more threads that can be picked up later.
Right. Like we've already been told about them, but like going there we get to show it. But like we can't have a rescue arc and also like naturally put because like I said, this is the Elite Four. This is, the Victory Road. These are some of the strongest characters in the setting. We can't have a big dumb shonen fight because they would be killed in moments. So it's like, it works for this story. But it is like anticlimactic. But like I was, I remember feeling, oh, this is a warm moment. And like between father and son, like because I hadn't got to the part where it's like, no, it's maybe not that warm. And wholesome
like
moment.
The first time through it would definitely come off as that when you don't know what happens later, and that, I don't know.
And especially notable because in the 2011 adaptation, there's like a whitish blue light to the whole scene, so it feels much colder. Even though, So rewatching it was even more said in like how, like you said, manipulative it is. But reading the first time, I was legit like, did that just fucking happen? Like, did they just? And I liked it. Subversion is like I remember hearing just a line about how like with general genre, is that some level of subversion of expectation is always needed, because if if a cliche becomes a cliche, then it becomes tired, and general audiences aren't going to want to see it anymore. And subversion is the way you get around cliche and appeal to people who are tired of that cliche, basically. Though not that I would say the rescue arc is a cliche, because like I like seeing them, like. Nisekoi had a great rescue arc.
Even then, like, just because it's cliche doesn't mean it's inherently bad, which is, that's a complaint a lot of shonen series get. It's like, oh, it plays into shonen tropes, but that doesn't mean that they're bad.
And I have a whole thing about that, because that's just a tired, like, I'm tempted to call it consumer critique, because it's very much like, it's judging things as a person experiencing the thing, like, whether it's worth time or not, which isn't, like, I don't think is a good way to examine, like, art, because it's, like, it's very much based on, the tastes of, like, both the person and just general community involved. Because we're going to read some old things, and we're going to see things that might be cliche to us on our reading experience, but, like, I try to find the value in things regardless and see what's good about them, So, like, this is neat. It's subversive, and it is, like, it's a good moment to like and in both its context and like it's neat. But yeah, they definitely believe blood matters, because Silva's like, he's my son, he'll be back. They oh god, I really like the Zoldicks are good and neat, and I want to see more of them. Togashi, stop dying and also finish your story, but also don't die finishing your story. Almost done with the arc. Pretty short. Or do we have anything more to say about the Silva stuff?
No, not at the moment.
Yep, okay.
Although, so I guess, Killua's mother's reactions are kind of interesting, because, like, she's, she is taken aback by, like, what a splendid icy glare he has. So, like, but also, so I don't know, like, he is progressing at this point in a way that she wants him to, like, he's becoming more, like, cold, well, but at the same time, he's also
earlier too.
leaving her control. So it's, like, a mixed reaction, which is kind of interesting.
Because she had that similar reaction earlier when she was stabbed, and Killua, like, that was the joke, because Killua was like, she was so happy, and it's like, wait, what? But, like, well, that was what I was kind of coming to before, but, because, she has this more positive reaction towards him, but also wants him to, like, stay with the family, where, Silva's, like, appearing to push him away, but actually, like, wants him, trapped there, too. So they're both, at the end of the day, they have the same sort of, like, goal. But, I guess, it goes back to what I was saying with how human they're presented, where, like, Silva's humanity is more deceptive because he's the one who seems like he's on Killua's side to Killua.
Yes.
But in actuality, they're the same, where, like, his mother appears more controlling, and she's, like, the one getting in his face and saying, stay, like, but then, no, I think I said enough. Zoldyck is neat. I guess, like, I will say, like, regarding to this stretch of chapters, like, with both of these arcs, like, I can see, it's, like, well, saying worst, implies bad, because I don't think these are bad, but it's definitely, like, probably, like my least favorite arcs in Hunter x Hunter, not because they're bad, but because, like, I mean, okay, I feel like, I'm already, like, looking forward to the chairman election arc, which I guess some people also don't care for, but I like that one. So I feel like these two are probably going to be, like, my weakest ones, but that's also because, like, every other arc is really good, really good. So yeah, but we'll talk about that later when we wrap up this series. For now, until finish the expedition into Succession War, Togashi. So yeah, we get the one last thing with the coin game with the butler. I had a little bit to say about this one, I think. But did you have anything to say about the coin game?
I mean, it's another scene that I like, but I'll let you say what you have to say first, and I'll see if you say what I was thinking.
Just the basic of, like, he's, like, he gives a little lesson to Gon, and it goes back to the deception thing, I guess with, the Hunter exam, at the end, because he's, like, and yeah, I guess it also, like, we see that the other butlers are also, like, Canary, where they are emotionally, like, tied to the family. Like, yeah, they're servants, but they do have these emotional connections, and, they are kind of outside of the family. Like, as we see in the election, is that they are kind of expendable, as when they were examining Aluka's powers, but, So yeah, I guess I hadn't considered them strongly in regards to the family dynamic, but we'll talk about that later, I guess.
I do think it's kind of it more just kind of depends on the translation. But like the part where like where Gon has to like free up his second eye. I think I remember in like one of the anime adaptations, it's translated as like Leorio says like, "Oh, don't do something reckless with this knife, Gon," and then he like cuts his eye, and it's like, ah. But obviously, like there's a point to it because it like reduces the swelling, and so he can see. Because we know that Gon, he's got.
That is pretty funny when you put it like that because it's like, don't do anything with that. What the fuck? But no, it makes sense when he explains why.
I also think like there was I don't know, like just some of the things that Goto says, the butler, and
that was his name, yeah.
Like what the things he says and like the things he does. It's interesting seeing Gon like read through. Like obviously you're not telling the truth here. So like when he says like, oh, I have. Wait, what was the specific quote where he says, I care about Killua as if he were my own son, but then it's like, actually, no. It's just our duty to not get emotionally attached to them, and Gon's just like, he sticks his tongue out and is like, yeah, sure.
Right.
But it also, like, all these little conflicts are good at setting up just, like, how far above the Zoldicks are from, like you said, Elite Four, because, like, the main characters struggle to even go through, and these are like not even like battle scenarios. These are little non-battle conflicts, like a coin game and such that they have to get through to even get to this point.
Right, and they're still like, I mean, they do manage this one, but like at the same time, Goto shows that he could have won at any time with more deception. But yeah, oh yeah, and there's a little bit where we get It's one of the in-between volume pages of Togashi marrying Naoko Takeuchi,
yes,
the author of Sailor Moon. And it's cute because he's like a little dog and she's a little bunny.
Yeah, what I think is kind of funny, like I've said that Togashi has like all these cat boys in his manga, but yet his avatar is a dog. There is the real subversion of expectations.
Yep. But anyway, so everyone's out. Killua is free for now. Kurapika shows off the trick with the coins. That to explain how Gon could to explain it to Gon basically. So and of course like Killua's like Killua bitches about Gon for not using his license, and Gon has to explain that the debts that he had to repay were for Hisoka and Kite before he uses his hunter license. He asks, because Kite was obviously Hyude's inspiration, and he needs to give the card or the back, and then of course the badge for Hisoka.
And then I don't know. Togashi has he has some really funny expressions. So like the point after this was like, yeah, you know where to find him, and there's just like the
Killua's like being smug because he's absolutely right, and Gon doesn't know shit. He's looking at the little idiot. And yeah, then we find out what Hisoka said to Kurapika during their fight, where he knows something about, I know something about the spiders, and...
See, and I think this is maybe, this ties in, like, there are a couple different aspects, that I think maybe, because I know some people towards more, like, later Hunter x Hunter, or even more just, like, stuff that's going on now, I guess it's just it kind of goes with the general shonen trend of, like, oh, the series has gone downhill, or it's going downhill, or whatever. Some people just kind of lose interest during ongoing arcs, or, with especially just the nature of things escalating, things kind of can lose a certain appeal. And so I think definitely these earlier arcs of, like, up until Greed Island, I think, although I guess, like, Chimera Ant has certain aspects that were definitely set up beforehand. But as far as, like, I mean, like, here you've got Yorknew being set up before, like, an arc before it actually happens.
Yeah.
And then you've got, like, Greed Island, again, gets set up. Like, Greed Island is a background factor all throughout Yorknew when that happens.
Yeah,
and
like,
so,
they
like,
go to Yorknew for Green. Like it is kind of neat how it unfolds, but go on and I'll.
Well, yeah, because I kind of made a video about this. How like all the arcs, like I said, up until about Greed Island, the arcs all feel like they have this strong sense of being like interconnected, and like everything is, very openly planned out, and like things are planted, seeds are planted in the story well in advance. And it's not even like a subtle thing. Like it's very blatantly brought up. Like we're going to meet up at Yorknew at this date, but before we do that, Heaven's Arena stuff has to happen. And then Greed Island.
Right.
Like we're going to the auction for Greed Island, but actually these other events get in the way of that. And
right, like it is neat how it turns out.
And then like later in the series, I'm obviously not caught up on the current arc, but it doesn't have that same sense of like, because things get bigger too. Like the Chimera Ant arc was like the size of the entire story up to that point. It like doubled the length of the manga or something crazy. It was a large chunk. So it's like harder to have those smaller, more interconnected things.
Right. Like, cause you're right. After, because like, I mean, Chimera Ant does naturally lead into the election because, Netero, dies. But then like, Greed Island, or no, Chimera Ant just comes out. It just happens. Like they go to Kite and then, they join in on his adventure, and then they're along for a Kite level adventure, and they are very underleveled for Chimera Ant, and that was like everyone was underleveled for a Chimera Ant. And then after the election, like really like it is just kind of like I won't spoil it obviously, but like this thing is happening and now this thing is happening. Like it's not something that was like majorly built up from earlier stuff. Not that, or not entirely. That's not entirely true, but like overall, yeah. But I can't, like I said, I can't talk. It's not certainly not at this level, because like one thing I just thought of while you were talking was how like the plan was to like Golan would be able to meet Hisoka at at Yorknew, if he wanted to give him the badge. But they happen to meet at Heaven's Arena, and so like you have the badge thing there, and then like they have another reason to go to Yorknew too, because like, and we already knew about the auction, and it makes sense that like big important thing be at auction, though we don't know about big important thing until later. But I just because especially because like the badge thing, like that would have been a whole subplot during Yorknew, but it wouldn't have fit that arc, so obviously it was a separate thing. But yeah, no, it's neat. And Lorio's just going to fucking be a nerd and study books.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here's the bit where Killua explains the skill gap between everyone, basically, especially pointing like Gon's not very strong, but compared to like even that was it. Killua separated like normal mode and Killua, I guess, because he put himself below Hanzo. But yeah, like I said, I think last time, Hanzo's actual like capabilities, who knows? And like they even kind of bring that up here with it's just approximation. Like
yeah, and he even says like the stronger you are, the better you are at hiding that strength.
Right. Because like Hisoka's most likely the strongest of these four characters being compared by like far, but like they don't even know about Nen at this point. So yeah, no, he's absolutely, because Hanzo doesn't know Nen either. So of course Hisoka's like way stronger. But and I do.
This is also with the main four splitting up for the time being. This is the first time that like Hunter x Hunter gets to do its little characters going off to do their own thing, and so like we change up sort of the tempo of the story for a bit. Whereas we've definitely gone through other shonen manga where the cast has become a bit of an issue, where it's like trying to fit all these characters in, some characters getting kind of left,
like with One Piece splitting its characters in half, and they still haven't all been together for literally 260 chapters now.
Well, even then, like that's not necessarily I don't know, it depends. Like in some cases it's more of an issue, some cases it's not.
Yeah, I do miss some of the Straw Hats, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad, because like it also is able to make the story, like less of a fucking spiraling mess. So,
but yeah, more, and again, like Hunter x Hunter is definitely a series where I can see it losing a certain appeal, depending on what you're invested in. Like if like Leorio is your favorite character, Sorry.
Then why do you like Hunter x Hunter at all?
Um,
I love the boy too, but
you know, so like someone who's like a fan of Leorio and Kurapika might not be as big of a fan of like Heaven's Arena or, you know, the arcs where they're not there. Whereas like if you are a fan of Gon and Killua, you might not be a fan of a more Kurapika centric arc like Yorknew.
Right. Or yeah, other, you know. But well, because I was gonna say something. I think we were in agreement about this point because we talked about it a while ago. But where how like the characters with the strongest desires are Gon and Kurapika, so it makes sense that they're kind of like the actual main characters because yeah, the story like Yorknew is Kurapika's arc, you know, and it's not in a way like is it like okay, a good comparison might be Fairy Tail actually because like Natsu's this kind of like constant character is always having these big climactic fights even in other arcs like Phantom Lord, which is like Lucy's arc, or the Tower of Heaven, which was another tower with the name Heaven in it. Now I think about it, that you know that was Urza's arc, but Natsu's still getting the climactic fights. Where like Yorknew, Gon and Killua are just there, like they're obviously like out of their you know depth in a few ways. Like they're in the big finale, they're hostages, you know. So it's like Kurapika's the main plot moving character, even though like you know even though Gon and Killua are still like the perspective characters for quite a bit of it, and you know that's notwithstanding even the current arc in the manga that I won't go into, but yeah, so it's like, and yeah, I agree with you with how like if you like one significantly better than the other, then that's like you know good chunks of the series you're not going to be as invested, and you know Chimera Ant being one of those chunks if you're not as huge on Gon or Killua, and the manga stuff being you know yeah for Kurapika. But
I remember there also this brought to mind a comment from the last podcast, which was like you're going to talk about Gon as a main character because I think he's pretty boring, and I'm like I love Gon as a protagonist, so I don't know what you want from me.
I think Gon and Killua's relationship is probably the best part about the manga, honestly. Like they're good boys. Like I like Kurapika too, but it's you know I just yeah we'll talk about them especially as we get it later in
although
because I think you know
yeah.
I think the whole cast is good.
We can talk more about it because there's a popularity poll that comes up a little later.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
But now we get to Heaven's Arena.
It's literally like a page like let's go to Heaven's Arena. Okay, we're at Heaven's Arena. Like they're yeah, but
yeah, like you see the little blimp that they take, and then boom, and they're there. Yeah. Which this is like a really interesting bit of it's just an interesting setting, not just for like the arc to take place in, but also like that this is a part of the world. Like it's this giant tower, and a lot of the details of Heaven's Arena are just interesting to think about. And it's not that they they do play an active role in the arc. Like the fact that characters can literally just like live here, and so like some characters they choose to like stagnate because of that. Like there are so many benefits to reaching a certain level in Heaven's Arena, and like yeah, they do want to try to be like the floor master or whatever, but like they don't strive to improve. They're always trying to like find any means necessary to get a win, and
right just with the easy ways. Yeah, that's true. Because one thing, yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about Heaven's Arena in that regard, probably because we don't really see a lot of the high level stuff. Because like I remember,
because they talk about this like you know not just the floor masters who we don't see, but like the Battle Olympian. It's like what the fuck is that? Well, we may never know.
Yeah, like that's why I kind of talked about how it is kind of like they just leave. Where it's like even though there is more to explore in the Heaven's Arena. Well, because I mentioned finding this interesting back in One Piece in Corridor Coliseum, where Idio, where he's like this boxer. Like here's this superpowered setting, and here's a character who's like really strong, just fighting for you know money and enjoyment. Like all these other characters he's you know now fighting along in the Coliseum, they're doing like life or death battles on the high seas. And this is kind of like that equivalent, but for Hunter x Hunter, we just don't really see it. We don't see that. Like Hisoka's the closest one we see, where he's just a guy who enjoys fighting, and he happens to be here. But like we don't see the other floors where I can imagine like these guys who are like, you know, these high level Nen users who are just enjoy fighting, and are like so it would be neat to see it, because like I do think that's interesting, where you do have these like battle series with life or death stakes, but also you've got like competitive fighters, you know.
I
guess we'll talk about like the relationship of Nen to the setting. Oh, sorry, you're trying.
I was gonna say it reminds me of the one filler movie, because like this seems like a setting that would be really good for like a filler movie, like just a bunch of action stuff. But the filler movie that uses it doesn't even really rely on the Heaven's Arena setting. And it's like, why did you even set it up here? That movie's God, I fucking hate that movie.
Nen Show bonus where we shit on the Hunter x Hunter movies. No,
I'd be willing to do it, like, if people really want to see me go off with, like, negativity.
Because, yeah, you have, even with Fairy Tail and Rave, you had bits, but, like, you were mostly so disinterested in them, so, where with me, like, I obviously have, like, the tirade. I built my career off of being angry at art, sadly. Like, I'm not proud of it.
Well, because, like, the thing with, like, that movie, as opposed to, like, Fairy Tail or something, was, like, Fairy Tail I struggled to get invested in the first place, but, like, that is, like, taking a setting I was invested in and turning it into something I'm not invested in, and then it's...
What, you don't like fight after fight after fight? Yeah, but anyway, I love the trope where it's like, well, Gon just beats the one guy in, like, a sumo slap with, like, he's literally 12 years old fighting against grown man, and everyone's like, what? Like, I always like that shit. Like, mentioning Dressrosa for this, I guess because they're both, like, you know, again, more competitive stuff in a general action setting, where it's like, I did find that one refreshing, where Lucy is, like, this complete unknown, but he's really, really strong, and it's just, it goes back to that, the stuff we see in early One Piece, and, like, right here with Hunter x Hunter, early Hunter x Hunter, where it's like, the character is an unknown, so, I like it. I like seeing the unknown be really strong and beat the shit out of people. It's funny.
It's also kind of interesting because, you know, obviously there was a bit of a training arc in between the Hunter exam and now, because, like, they had to train to open the gates for the Zoldyck family.
Yes.
But because there weren't really any fights in that arc, we never got, like, a payoff to the training, so, like, this is that payoff. And so it is a little surprising when it's like, oh, wow, he just easily shrugged that guy off.
Gon's surprised. Yeah, Gon, he's like, whoa, because Killua's just like, trust me, because, you know, he I'm pretty sure he knew that Gon was able to get through the gate, so he's like, just do this, like, so you don't kill him. And, yeah, like, Gon's, like, looking at his hand after, like, did I get that strong? Damn. So, yeah, it's a good little moment. And, of course, as we go through the whole thing, we're getting little tidbits from Killua about, like, because he's been here before at age 6. And it is, like, relatively, like, I guess to bring up something I mentioned back with the Zoldyck stuff is that he, it's competitive fighting, so yeah, he probably might have gotten hurt, but it's, like, it's still less danger than his fucking family.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it is kind of fucked up that they just, like, dropped him here at the age of 6 and was like, all right, come back when you've reached, like, the 200th floor or whatever. It's like,
But even then, it's as I said, it's like, I don't. Oh, and there's the running gag of, like, Killua spent literally, like, thousands and thousands on just, like, snacks. Like,
no, I don't even know if thousands, like, does it justice. Like, millions, I thought they even equated to, like, millions or, like, billions. No, I'm looking at the panel now. It says, like, 200 million, whatever. I forget the currency right now. And I don't know on stacks. Fucking, like, chocolate bars and shit, you little... Killua's good. Oh yeah, and of course they run into Zushi, the little martial arts boy, and Wing. Yeah, it's kind of funny how Zushi gets used in this arc, because, like, he shows up and it's like, oh, we've got a new comrade to be along for the ride, and then literally it's like, next fight, Killua versus Zushi. It's like, fuck. So much for that.
Yeah, and of course he's there. Like, he's this, like, baby Nen user to sort of introduce us to the, and of course he's being trained as well. And of course, Gon and Killua start learning Nen, and they far outstrip him. Like, he was even getting mad. Like,
yeah, there was even a part where he was like, "No, they better not surpass me in an afternoon." Like, no, take a break. Like, rest is important too.
Because Wing even says, like, he's a really talented kid. He's, like, but Gon and Killua are just on another fucking level, in just ability, like, but Shounen is hard work, like hard work, like Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, okay, I guess they work for like an afternoon and become gods. Hard work. No, I'm fine with it. I'm just bitching about the community again. But yeah, it turns out, like, because Killua is pretty, like, confident about his abilities, but here we get a situation where, like, he's, like, against a complete unknown because he doesn't understand Nen, and, like, Wing even stops him from going, like, all out. So, it's like, you know, the gap is unknown because Killua is so, like he's lacking this whole, like, layer of techniques. With
it's an interesting gap because normally, like, the gap is like, oh, this character's so strong, but here, like, Killua is mopping the floor with him, but yet he, like, can't finish Zushi off, and that's where the intrigue is, because it's like, it's not, because we know that Killua will win because he's not struggling at all, but there's still something that, like, there's still something throwing him off that, like, he can't, I don't know, and that's another interesting little. It's also kind of funny when it starts off and, like, the odds favor Zushi and Killua has that little, like, insecurity streak where he's like, he gets pissed. And you can just see Zushi crying. He's like, oh no, he's mad. He's gonna hurt me.
And he does have to, he has to apologize later. But anyway, like, Killua does over here and learn the name Ren, which is, you know, one of the facets in Nen. And, but they keep moving up. They're strong. They get their room.
Yeah, like when he's like, change of plans. We're going all the way to the top. And Gon's like, that was my plan. But okay.
So yeah, they ask Zushi about Nen. And so we get, I think it's pretty interesting. Like, obviously we get the fake explanation of Nen, which I was like thinking way too hard about. And then it's like, oh, I was lying. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Because, like, you know, one of the points he even, like, for opening up Nen, he says something about, like, you know, determining the goal, and that ties into, like, Nen being desire, you know, will, wanting to something, you know, but then it's, like, because I remember comparing it, it's, like, because one thing he says is, like, Zetsu is putting it into words, when in actuality, Zetsu is, like, it's the one that you hide your Nen, so it's not putting anything into words, it's actually, like, quieting, basically. So it's, like, you know, because that was the lie. And, because, like, some of them were, like, yeah, like, kind of true, but, with the fake ones, the fake explanation, but I was just saying, because I was, like, trying to read into it, but then it's like, oh, wait, no, it's trash, never mind. And yeah, we get the moment that you mentioned earlier where Wing activates his Ren and scares the shit out of Killua, who has just a higher level of danger sense. Guys also considered the needle that he has in his forehead, where you know, he's more self-preserving. But
yeah, so it's like,
were you gonna say something, or?
Yeah, but then I decided not to because I kind of already said it earlier.
Okay, that's fair.
Although I do think that, like, the fake explanation of Nen is still kind of interesting because it gives another layer to Nen, because it is something, the whole, like, focusing and whatever, you know, it does, you know, like when Gon is not supposed to practice Nen, but, like, he can practice, like, the mental aspect of Nen, and, you know, like, the spiritual sort of, I don't know, everything that gets explained here. It also makes me think of, like, it made me think of hockey, because, like, you know, here it's initially expressed that, like, oh, it's like your force of will, that is what Nen is. And to me, that made me think of hockey, because, like, hockey is very much like a manifestation of that. Like, you even have, like, the Conqueror's hockey, where it's straight up, like, you can knock people unconscious through force of will. But Killua then has a moment where he's like, well, you know, you can't just do that. Like, you can't just, you know, wanting to win is not going to make a punch hurt less or whatever. So it's like that. It's not quite, I don't know, not to say that, like, hockey's bad and One Piece is bad, but, you know, it's like a different level of, I don't know. It made me think of hockey, but it's also, like, different.
I forgot because I mentioned this a while ago that there was a write-up on Nen, and I even mentioned Nen, or hockey, and I even mentioned Nen, or it mentioned Nen as an aside, and what hockey is and what it means. And I was linked those, so in the description, I'm saying this for me, so because I need to link the one post about Togashi being inspired by Kinnikuman, the blog about the Nen Show, or not the Nen Show, the Nen analyses, the Tumblr, and now I need the hockey post, just because like it does break down more about just what. Because I wish they did one for Nen, because like I'm kind of curious as to the differences, because like they both focus on like willpower, but they're also different words, which it would imply different connotations. So but yeah, no, that is because I was thinking about like what I was thinking about as far as like hockey comparison is where like hockey is like the basic techniques, like the ones everyone can learn, where devil fruits are like the unique abilities, but like. We learned about devil fruits first, and then hockey is like this mysterious thing. Or like with Nen, you learn the basic abilities, because it's one system, you learn the basic abilities first, and then you get the more unique ones later. Like they don't get their unique stuff until like Greed Island. So not for like a whole arc. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting how like they're flipped a bit. As far as like involving it into the, like bringing it into the world. And the characters. Though, of course, like, I guess both hockey and devil fruits did show up in chapter 1, even though hockey wasn't named. But yeah. So anyway, we learned a little tidbit about how, like, Wing says that Nen cannot be, like, it needs to be, like, it should only be taught to certain people because it's incredibly dangerous. And I thought that was interesting. Did you have anything specific to say about it? Or should I just go into why I thought it was neat?
Just go ahead. Maybe I can add something later.
Because I also thought about Yu Yu Hakusho and Level E, and this is regard, like, I guess it's maybe like a theory or projection of like how the series might go. Because like keeping Nen limited, like in general, it's very like it's an incredible power, but it's also something everyone is capable of. And like like that line actually made me think of One Piece, because Rayleigh says something about like something similar when teaching Luffy hockey. But anyway, that was a weird tangent. But so like obviously the reason that they want to keep it only in hands of good people is because people can exploit it and do terrible things, but also people come up with it naturally anyway. Like there's the first Nen users we really see are Hisoka and Illumi, not great people. And so like how maybe like thinking about how Yu Yu Hakusho and Level E ended, where like the demons and humans are together and the aliens and humans are together. Like I kind of envision that like by the end of the series, like maybe in a flash forward, like everyone's going, like Nen is just going to be a basic part of life. So just going by what Togashi has, so I don't know what that necessarily would signify, and like how the series is going to reach that point. Like there is some stuff with the Hunter Association going on in the manga only stuff right now, that I would bring up, and but obviously can't. It's just an interesting thought I had about how like Nen is kind of like Nen users are like an elite hidden group, and so of people who can do amazing things, and there you could reasonably like, and maybe that in itself is a problem, because like there's this fear that humanity isn't ready for Nen, and if you compare that to like Level E and Yu Yu Hakusho, like there was this fear that humanity isn't ready to interact with demons, or this fear that humanity isn't ready to have aliens, and maybe they're all like, and those were both proved to be wrong. So I feel like Togashi is going somewhere similar there, because he's done this same basic idea twice, like and like even going to Chimera Ant arc, because you have the same kind of thing there, where it's like Chimera Ants are basically like this, they're similar to humans enough that like they could coexist, like there's nothing stopping them and that from happening, basically.
See, you reminded me of, I remember hearing like a complaint about like how Nen is initially like this mysterious thing that like the characters going through the Hunter exam didn't even know about it. But then, like, when we get to Chimera Ant, like, here are these creatures just sort of being born with it. So it will be interesting to kind of think on that when we get to Chimera Ant, especially from the lens that you just brought up, which I hadn't. Well, it's not something I'd really considered, but I think it sounds interesting.
And now that you're saying that to me, like, I forget if it was. Okay, this is a very minor spoiler, but like, because at the end of the anime, we do find out that like the big world tree was it's a stunted tree from the Dark Continent. Like, it's the biggest like tree in the regular world, but on the Dark Continent, it's a stunted baby. And we also find out that Chimera Ants are from the Dark Continent. They're like, so thinking about that, like in the regular world, like the Chimera Ants, like they ate Nen users, humans, and being born like and as such are exceedingly dangerous. But in the Dark Continent, they're only like a fair level of threat. Like, so maybe the Dark Continent, because like if humans can use Nen, like, and maybe are there like animals smart enough to also use Nen, like Chimera Ants, like magical beasts, like. Nen, maybe the Dark Continent is already the space where Nen is more common. So, like, to address that complaint is, like, it's the world opening up. That is the thing. Like, that's, Nen is more understandably, like, a thing over in the Dark Continent, and Chimera Ants are from the Dark Continent. So, yeah, they're being born with it because, like, it's not of this world, basically. So, yeah, minor spoiler, but you just made me think about that. So, I don't know. I wish Hunter x Hunter was over so we could talk about it in full, but Togashi, I'm sorry. Why were you? Oh, God. Anyway, this is turning out to be a long episode, even though there's still a little, like, content. Oh my God, this is gonna be the longest one. Yorknew and Chimera Ant, Jesus Christ. I'm afraid, Mathwiz, I'm afraid. So, one thing, they go up to they're finally on the floor of monsters, where, like, no longer are they even fighting for money, but, like, and like, it shifts pretty dramatically, like, there's, like, bloodlust, and, they can't go through the hallway, and then, like, there's, like, obviously the comparison, because there's, like, the girl, the guide to the general, like, thing. And she's got like bags under her eyes. She compared to the earlier one, like, who was like cuter, she's definitely a little like off, like it just like immediately kind of gets across like what these floors are like.
Yeah, and so they're like, is she the one with the mysterious? But no, obviously it's not her. It's a fake out.
Right. It's Hisoka. He's here. Clown boy.
See, this is like. So I know we talked about before about, like, how Togashi draws characters and stuff, and I kind of memed about this on Twitter, but this is, like, the first panel where, like, Hisoka shows up and he has that, like, playful sort of, like, sexual energy that just comes with the territory of being Hisoka. Like, he came off as more, like...
the way you phrased that.
He came off as more, like, creepy in the, like, Hunter exam. Like, he did have his moments where he had, like, the weirdly, like, detailed, like, the faces, but this is the first one where, like, I don't know, it's clearly got, like, a different energy than his other appearances, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because, I mean, he's like, not outright antagonist, like, or this, I guess it's because this is a controlled environment. The Hunter exam, he's, like, literally introduced cutting off a dude's arms, and, in the first phase, he has his own examination, where he's literally just murdering dudes who fail. And here it's like, yeah, he's just a barrier, in a controlled environment where, killing is certainly allowed, but, and he obviously doesn't want to kill Gon, so, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, when you say it like that, because, yeah, this is when he's, like, on the arc to him, like, working alongside the main characters, this is definitely a step in that direction, towards seeing it as more of a possibility. So it makes sense that he would be presented differently as well.
See, now, I mean, maybe I don't know, just thinking about, like, the context of, because we know that there are the characters who, like, they have, like, they go through the, like, the Nen initiation, and so we see that their bodies are all kind of fucked up in various different ways. Like, one guy is missing an arm, the one guy doesn't even have legs, so he, like, became a top.
Yeah.
And then there's the guy in the wheelchair. So, like,
They said I could become anything, so I became a top. No, sorry. That's just what you made me think about.
So, like, maybe I'm reading
they're
into this
crippled.
incorrectly, but, like, when Hisoka sort of, like, pushes them away and, like, wards them off, that makes me almost wonder, like, is that his form of initiate? Because, like, we know that, like, he wants them to get stronger, and so seeing them, I don't know, get, like, injured in a severe way might hamper that, so that's why I almost wonder, does him showing up before they do, like, is that his way of sort of, like, keeping them away so that they don't... maybe, like I said, I could be completely wrong.
Well, I feel like, because, like, I remember, I think maybe it was Alexander talking about it, but just generally, like, Hisoka's morality, because, like, he does do positive things, but, like, ultimately it's based on this motive of, like, who am I going to fight and kill, or, possibly kill when they're at their peak? Like, so he's protecting them, like, I think that's perfectly fair to say that, he's protecting them, he's forcing them to learn Nen, or, start over, and, like, because, like, Wing even says, like, they could have, like, forcibly activated your Nen, but with a much less, like, because when he's doing it, he's even says, like, this is a very risky, thing, like, you could easily be abused and, possibly killed or seriously hurt by someone doing this, and Gon's like, but you're not going to do that, right? And, like, Gon's such a good boy. But, like, he even points out, like, during the fight, that could have happened by these guys who had no goodwill within them whatsoever. Like, they would have just, like, abused the shit out of it and seriously hurt or crippled, Gon or Killua, so that they couldn't. And Hisoka would obviously be not cool with that.
So like, it's not to say that, like, Hisoka does have some good intentions, because it's more like, I am keeping you safe from these people so that I may hurt you, so that I may kill you one day.
It happens to be good in the moment, but, like, at the end of the day, like, Gon and Hisoka are probably going to have a serious battle involving, I'd assume Hisoka's death, because, like, Gon's the main character. And some people have doubts about, like, that, given what happens at the end of the series. Read interviews. Togashi very much there's a fucking part in Chimera Ant where it's like, King Gyro, he'll meet Gon later. Gon's adventure is done. He's just gonna meet this one other, like, character who doesn't do anything in the arc, but is explicitly mentioned as important, or because he was explicitly... Sorry, I had to get that off my
Togashi has
chest.
said some, like, cryptic things in interviews that have, like, no, don't do this to my favorite characters.
But it is still Gon's story, is what I wanted to get across there, even if, like, wait, is that a spoiler? Shit. So Wing shows off Nen and its, like, destructive capabilities.
See, and I do like the translation for, like, the explanations of Nen, because clearly, like, the terms, it's one of those things where, like, they have multiple meanings, and that's how they're able to do, like, the fake Nen in the first place, like how Wing is able to lie to them, like, and so, like, you actually get, like, the, not translator's notes, but just, like, little, like, things in parentheses to kind of, like, clarify.
Yes, because, like, you even see, like, the symbols and in the text, which is, I can't remember seeing that off the top of my head, where they're translating it, but they're actually just, like, including the original symbol that obviously 99% of readers are not going to be able to read.
Yeah.
But he's, like, because that is I guess, like, like, this is probably, like, the best Viz translation we've had, I think. Like, Bleach was good too, for sure, but this is, they're both up there, rather, where, I did also like Fairy Tail's Kodansha translation. But yeah, we get more explanation, and, they get their Nen unlocked. They have to, kind of keep it down so that they don't die. But,
I remember there being a gag, like, I think, in the anime, because, like, Wing, like, destroys this wall to, like, show, like, what Nen can do. But, like, I don't remember, like, what sort of building they're in, because I thought I remember there being a gag in one of the adaptations where it's like, hey, what the fuck? You just destroyed this wall. Because there's also a sort of thing, like, when he, like, initially shows it off and he, like, slices the can of juice with, like, a piece of paper from a book. So she's like, did you have to tear up my book and destroy my juice?
Wing just destroys shit without thinking, I guess. Like, I gotta show off how cool Nen is. And it's like, no, don't. That's funny.
Well, it is kind of interesting, too, because, like, he says he is an enhancer, which, we get, like, the little personality analysis based on like Nen abilities, and like the enhancers are the more like straightforward, because like Gon is an enhancer. So it kind of makes sense that like he would do, perhaps do things, not necessarily do things without thinking, but like not, I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying, because like, yeah, Hisoka's personality test is definitely fairly, accurate for what we've seen. But yeah, once they get Nen, they can pretty easily pass Hisoka's test, and he's even points out like, okay, yeah, you could do the basic shit, but you're still not ready. Like, he shows off how he can do like these little, like, he makes shapes just because it's neat. And we get a little preview of the three opponents they'll be facing for their further, terms. Because again, Gon wants to fight Ahsoka. And I love the person explaining like the Floor Masters and Olympia shit, because like they're children, and she's trying to hype them up and be like, yeah, fighting tournaments, and they're just like, they don't give a fuck at all.
Yeah.
This poor lady, she just gets pissed off. She's funny.
Yeah, because it's like, why are you here if you don't want to partake in any of this?
Anyway, we get our first fight. Gon versus Guido, who I could only remember the name because I saw it right there in front of me. Gon turns it into training. He figures out how to he deduces what the ability is, and he keeps using it to get stronger, even if he might not be able to win. But he doesn't give up.
Okay, but you know what's also kind of cool? Because like they talked about Nen kind of being shaped by the individual, and that's a big appeal of the power system, is that like It's very shaped by the characters and character flaws and stuff. So what's interesting about these three characters is that their Nen abilities very much play into the, cost of their initiation, because like Guido's ability is all the stuff with the tops, and he's able to spin himself like a top, where, obviously he doesn't have the legs now, which I assume was a cost of the initiation. That's why he has like the top spinny leg thing now.
Yeah.
You have the guy in the wheelchair who's able to like accelerate with the wheelchair, and he's got the whips and stuff. So it's a case where like they made these sacrifices, and then those sacrifices became their power.
Or it's like they're making the best out of their circumstances, might be another way to put it, where it's like they were hurt in this horrible way, and like, but they were able to like, they also didn't give up in a, like, even they're not necessarily becoming stronger, like they focus on, they're like Tonfa, they're just beating up weak people and preying on them, but like at the same time, they are still like doing what they can with their circumstances.
Oh yeah, and we do get more of an explanation, especially once we get to like Castro, and we talk about like maximizing the potential of your Nen, and how some of these characters, like, they do make their abilities work based on their limitations, but those, it's not necessarily the best that their Nen is capable of.
Yeah. But anyway, Gon got the shit beat out of him. And there's the thing where it's like, the doctor says it would take 4 months to heal. Kilo lies, and he does the cat face, because he says that it would take 2 months to heal. What a good
it's good.
And then, of course, it actually takes 1 month to heal, because Gon's a freaking weirdo.
Yeah, and so then, like, he spends the next month, like, because then you see, after we see that it's healed, he's back in the sling, so, like, he's still, like, faking it for a month around Wing. So it shows that, like, Gon, he might be like a kind kid, and he might be like innocent and honest, but he can be a little sneaky. Like, he is still a kid.
Right.
So like, he might not have broken the promise about like using Nen, but he's still, well, I don't want anyone to know that my arm is actually healed, because like, I'd imagine there's still things that he could do using that arm that maybe he doesn't want to let Wing know. I don't know.
Yeah, because Wing got mad and slapped. I mean, I guess this isn't really a thing that's quite like expanded on, but like, he meant Kite for like a day, and so Wing is like the first like adult dude who's like, I wouldn't go as far as say he's like a father figure because they don't have that like deep of a relationship, but he is a male authority figure that Gon really hasn't had before. So yeah, he does like, he subverts him at times, but also like, yeah, with the sling, he follows the like Killua's lie, even though like he was healed, like it doesn't come up. Yeah, so that is interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
No, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting too, because, he initially doesn't think much of it, like, oh yeah, I broke my arm, I figured it wouldn't kill me, it's not a big deal, but then, like when Wing slaps him and is like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? He does take it a little more seriously, like, okay, I'm gonna fulfill this promise, I'm gonna do this thing, and it's neat.
Right.
Also, I think,
yeah, Gon, I was gonna say real quick, he doesn't want to hurt people. But he's fine with being hurt himself, but he hasn't quite got that hurting himself does hurt other people, like emotionally.
Yeah. Ooh. That gave me an idea.
But we'll get to you were gonna say something.
Yeah, but I'm looking back more at like the actual the fighting before that. I do think it's interesting how Gon is able to use Zetsu and he like suppresses his aura, and Wing is like, wait, I didn't teach him that. Which is, I guess it's not like that's an interesting thing where like the 2011 anime very directly sets it up, and I think the 1999 anime does it as well, where it places more emphasis. I would expect so
because like they would have had that material when they started.
Yeah, so like the moment with Hisoka where he like you see him like suppressing his presence, and then it's easier to look back on later and be like, oh, that was very clearly Nen. The manga didn't really call as much attention to it in the moment, so I'm thinking this is something where Togashi just kind of went back and was like, yeah, this moment worked, or maybe he did think of it at the time but just didn't think to like dwell on it a little more than how the anime does it.
And one thing I thought it was kind of interesting because we kind of get like it later with the Castro fight, but like because Gon was hidden from Hisoka's presence, a Nen user. Like, in a way, Hisoka was, like, very familiar with Nen and didn't, he didn't expect to be followed. Like, he even said, like, oh, man, that was a work of art. Like, he was impressed by Gon's ability to follow them.
Yeah.
But the whole time, Gon was being followed. Like, even though he's suppressing his Nen, he's still detectable by, like, eyes.
Yeah.
So where a normal character
like
was
that,
able
he's
to, like,
still
follow...
detectable by eyes.
Right. A normal human is still able to detect and track Gon, even though he's like using this technique that, he shouldn't be able to know about, but he's just naturally learned it by wanting to hide his presence. And presumably having that strong desire to awaken his Nen naturally. So yeah, I thought that was interesting because you almost have Hisoka like evoking the same flaw that Castor does in their fight, where he's just not like but like I guess like with Castor he didn't have the basics of Nen, which was his like failing. Where with Hisoka he like forgot he wasn't considering the basics of just like senses. Like he's just so used to being a Nen user, like he doesn't need to see a person if he can sense their aura. Pretty much, and of course there's N where it's like he evokes his aura over across the whole space and he knows everything in that space.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought about that. Like I didn't think about that at the time for sure. A little interesting.
It's also another example of a character's abilities kind of reflecting, their character or like their upbringing. So Wing does call attention to that. Gon grew up in nature, so having the ability to hide your presence is
to blend with
it's definitely nature. Something where like his upbringing makes him more it's more of a strength that he just kind of naturally leans into. It's like the nature versus nurture thing, and in this case it's very much just his nature to be able to suppress his what's the word I'm looking for, be better able to do that.
You said nature versus nurture, and I hadn't thought about that in regards to Gon and Killua, because Gon's a character who just like naturally lived, and he's just natural like what a person might be like, because he did have nurture with like Mito and such. Like it's not like he had no upbringing, but where Killua is a character who's like he was very much nurtured to be a killer basically, and so I hadn't thought about them in regards to how like Killua's upbringing was so controlled, where Gon was much more free. As contrast, I guess. But anyway, they talk about the Gon, dodging through the tops and learning how to do Nen, almost, and he ended up getting hit. Oh yeah, and like Wing is like concerned that like he's like endangering these people because he's giving these children powerful abilities that will allow them to get into more dangerous situations. Killua points out that like they would have found out about Nen eventually. They already knew about Hisoka, and yeah, the whole Zoldyck family knows it basically. But yeah. Oh, there's a little cutaway with Kurapika, who's trying to get work but doesn't have Nen, so he can't.
Yeah, I do like the little cutaways to Kurapika during this time. Because you even get like the little chapter cover at one point where it's just like, oh, I need to cut my hair. Which is just, an interesting little way of keeping him.
And you get a few with Lurio, he's studying. Yeah. But yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it keeps them both like in, like, because yeah, you don't need to like pay explicit attention to them for like a whole chapter, but it does give us like, here's where they are now, here's what they're doing, because yeah, a lot of time passes in Hunter x Hunter, like throughout the arc. Like this arc, like after this arc they go to Yorknew, so it's roughly 6 months basically that they're at Heaven's Arena, and like that's pretty wild to think about. Like I think for comparison,
well, yeah, because like a lot of, well, I mean, yeah. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but like a lot of shonen stories do the thing where time seems to like stand still, where a lot of events take place in a very short amount of time, and so
or an completely unknown amount of time until the author says something. Like I was gonna say, like up to Tenro Island is basically half a year. So these like 15 chapters of Heaven's Arena take place in the same time period as literally like 20 30 volumes of Fairy Tail, So just because like. Yeah, they're both 6 months. One Piece, there's no idea how long it took. I think someone like looked at the phases of the moon and estimated that like the like Maple Village, or the Usopp arc to like Water 7 is like a month, because it follows the phases of the moon, or maybe I don't know, multiple months. I don't know, but yeah, it is a wildly different length of time, and yeah, like you said, they don't like call too much attention to it. Like, I guess a school setting would be more likely because you always have, like, the Christmas episode, the Valentine's Day episode, stuff like that. But, this doesn't have that, but it's still able to, like, address a passage of time. Did you have any more to say, or shall we move on to, Castro being introduced?
Well, there is the little moment where Wing is thinking about, how Gon was willing to like put his life at risk for just to have like fun, just to progress his power. And he says, what have I done? Have I awoken a terrible monster? And I mean, that's an example of very blatant foreshadowing. Like maybe Togashi didn't know exactly how it would play out, but like this is very clearly leading to something.
Yeah, a capability of Gon's that's potentially very terrifying. That we'll talk about later. But anyway,
yeah.
Gon's not allowed to watch the fight, or go on.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that because Killua's got the tickets, and
yes,
he's like, it's not really training Nen, but he's like studying Nen is no.
Gon's a good boy. He might break his promise, so he's not gonna. Or no, it is actually. Yeah, kind of. Wing said so. But,
yeah, I like the part later when Wing is like, "Oh, I designed the." Gon is like, whenever I looked at the string on my finger, I felt calmer. And Wing was like, "Oh, I designed it to have that effect." Really? No.
Yeah. But anyway, Killua goes to see Castro and gets busted. Like, we see another like level to the gap. Like, he does have these abilities, but he's not as experienced as using them because he's only known them for so long. Like, he hides his Nen, and Castro's like put on guard because he's like, oh, that aura just disappeared. What does this person like? Where is this person going? And sure enough, like, he uses his duplicate technique and slips behind Killua. And even like gives him a little lesson.
Yeah, I like this little interaction because it gives the impression that like, oh, Castro, he's gonna go off to the Battle of Olympia, and he's like, I'll be waiting for you there, and we'll, oof, yeah, good, good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, but yeah, we do get the Hisoka versus Castro, where it turns out, like, you know, Castro fought him before. He did a decent job against Hisoka, and trained because he did ultimately lose. And, like, yeah, I guess relative to, like, Hisoka's fights in the Heaven's Arena, even now he gives Hisoka, you know, the best fight. Like, hurts him the most, even though Hisoka's definitely toying with him a bit. Like, Hisoka's fucking, like, a crazy person. Like, holy shit, he just, like, he fucking eats his arm.
Yeah.
Absolute fucking batshit insane. Like, even Castor's like, like, in the panel after that, he's, like, sweating, and is like, Jesus. I'm trying to think about anything specific to say about the fight. Like, it's neat. It's cool. Well, because we get, like, two Nen users fighting each other for the first time, really. So we get, like, a display of Nen, but from as outsiders. Like, we don't really see what happens until, like, the post-mortem.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight because we haven't really had one like this up to this point where, like, the action happens and we're kind of kept in the dark, and then afterwards bits of it are explained.
Right, we see it as a magic trick, and then the trick is explained to us. Like, we just know Nen exists, but we have not gotten nothing about the unique abilities at all, and here we see two. Like, we have to get explained, like, the different kinds of Nen. Like, the reason Castro's ability was so hard to learn is because it's, like, it takes from two aspects that are, like, on opposite sides of the hex. And, where Hisoka's ability is much more, you know, attuned to him, and... Yeah, and, you know, Castro... Like, I really like how the anime adapted this, because, like, in the manga, we get one chapter of Hisoka getting healed, and then we get the breakdown of the fight, and then later we get, they go over the tape, where in the anime, they sort of merge the two. So they go over the fight, both sides are going over the fight at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I like that. It was a good, way to adapt the material, I thought. Like, I was obviously haven't seen the anime as much, but that was one that struck me rereading this and realizing, like, how different it was, and how, like, yeah, the anime did it well, in just the information it got across.
I almost want to go out on a limb and, I mean, like, maybe not, because, like, I don't know what Togashi's schedule's like at this point, but I know Chapter 53 does look particularly kind of rough with the sketches in a way that, like, some of the Yu Yu Hakusho chapters that Togashi said he drew himself did. So, like, I almost wonder, is this one he did him? Like, I don't... But then again, I'm not entirely sure what the timeline of events was, because this is still, like, 1999, roughly. So, like, this is well before, like, Togashi would start going on his, like, big hiatuses. But this one chapter in particular just kind of stood out as looking, you know, not necessarily even that, like, the art is bad, but, like, some of the you know, like, the outlines look a bit rougher, which is definitely, like, a style that can work. I don't know.
No, yeah, I gotcha.
It just looked different compared to, like, the chapters, like, the chapter leading into it and the chapter after it.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I didn't take particular note of it myself, though, so I don't have much to add.
What I also think is interesting just about, like, the Heaven's Arena fights in general, although I guess it's more so the fights with Hisoka, because, like, this one is interesting because it's the first time we've really gotten a fight happens, everything is kind of smoke and mirrors, and then we see, you know, we get the explanation after the fact. And then the fight with Gon is, like, different in that, like, Togashi choreographs the action in that fight really well. Like, I can like, see through the panels, like, the way that, like, the 2011 anime kind of, like, actually animated the full thing. Like, a lot of the motions and dodges and whatnot are there. So it's, like, one where it's, like, very easy to follow the action. Whereas, like, some of Togashi's fights, you'll just get kind of, like, the smears, like, when like, an attack happens and there's just, like, the impact, and it's much rougher.
Huh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that, because I'm wondering if that like, Gon vs. Hisoka is, like, is that the first fight he did it like that, or did he do it at other times?
I don't remember anything like that in the Hunter, you know, like, up to this point, at least.
Or Yu Yu Hakusho, even, is what I was kind of bringing or trying to imply.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember pointing it out in the Yu Yu Hakusho discussions, but I could be wrong.
So, I don't know. It would be interesting to see it, like, as him trying something different as an artist, basically, and in the way he's conveying like the fight and the information and stuff. So neat.
I know that fight in particular, like, animated is one of my favorite fights, just because I like that, like, hand-to-hand combat, seeing it animated and how that works, so...
Yeah, no, it looks really cool, and it is cool.
So yeah, choreography is the thing that I'm definitely a fan of, and so that fight is good.
Yeah.
I love this fight, because... so my next video that's going to be coming out, which, actually, by the time this podcast goes up, it might even be done,
I hope so.
So, anyway, Castro is very clearly, like, a jobber character. Like, he shows up, he has very clear purpose of, like, giving us an example in practice of, like, how the Nen system works and, like, the potential strengths and flaws of it. And, we get, like, this whole, like, mystery of it. And he's built up to be a character that, like, he's got history with Hisoka. He seems like a character who, maybe, he has the little interaction with Killua to kind of, to humanize him a bit. And I think he does a very good job.
And also maybe imply that, like, that conversation, it doesn't give him a death flag. Like, I'm not saying, like, I'm meeting you later at the like, is that a death flag? I wouldn't say so. Like, that's not so, like, he's not talking about retiring or of his family he has back home. Like, typical death flags. Like, I never got the sense that was supposed to be a death flag, but he does die. So, like, maybe, they are death flags because it's like it's promising this kind of setup.
Yeah, but like you also think in the context of Heaven's Arena, where like a lot of the fights are stopped before someone dies. Like you think of all the the fights with the other side villains in this arc, none of them die. The other character like Zushi doesn't die or anything. Mm-hmm. This is really like the only character who does. But still, like I think as far as like. I guess being kind of like plot devicey and like being a vehicle to get across certain ideas and move different elements of the story and like explaining Nen and stuff. Like I feel like Castro is a really good example of like that sort of character who just shows up and has one appearance and just loses. But he loses in a very effective way.
Right, and like it's even used to get across a lesson to. Gon and Killua, don't forget the basics. Like, they're important for a reason. Because here's this guy. He's Castro, like, doing this training and getting this technique that, like, isn't normally possible by Nen standards. Like, because it's deliberately at odds with itself, or it's literally at odds with itself is the word I meant to say. But, like, yeah, so he's, like, he's able to fight against Hisoka. Like, if he used his basic Nen and was able to, like, see these strings and react to them, like Hisoka would have had a much tougher fight, and like which is what Hisoka would have wanted, So it's like, yeah, he's a capable guy, but he dies because he literally forgets the basic shit that Gon and Killua are learning.
Yes.
So, which I think is also cool because like it does bring up the importance of these basics because like. They're showing off the cool shit. Like, this is the shit, readers might want to see, is the unique abilities, the cool stuff. Like, we're Gon and Killua are learning, like, the basic baby stuff. And, like, but then this fight highlights, like, yeah, they're able to do this cool shit, but the reason Castro loses is because he didn't remember how to do the easy stuff. Or he didn't remember to do it in the first place. So, that's neat. I like it.
For I don't know. This is a sort of character type that like really appeals to me, especially now that I like started thinking about it for that video. It's just like the characters who show up to be fodder, but are like just really effective fodder.
yeah. Which we've all like even back with like episode 2 of the Nen Show, we talked about Rock Lee, and he was really cool fodder. So yeah, it goes back to the history of the Nen Show too. But yeah, no, it's cool.
But then, like, the thing about, like, Lee is, like, he is a recurring character, so it's not quite as simple as, like, he's not as much of a minor character as, like...
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Someone might even, like, not even... people who aren't, like, super fans of Hunter x Hunter like I am, they might not even remember Castro's name, but...
right. Yeah. But I guess I just brought up Lee because he's, like, he loses and looks cool while doing it, which is, like... exactly what a jobber should do. So, not necessarily everyone, but like it's cool when that happens. But we're like, I guess Castro, like he doesn't look cool because like he's literally forgetting the basic things, but like it's important. You know why? It's meaningful. Is what I'm trying to say.
It's cool that he doesn't look cool. That he looks like a total scrub.
Yeah,
because it like goes to show that even like the scrubs in your story, like the very minor, characters who you're only gonna have fulfill one purpose, like they can still be important, and they can have they can affect how the story gets across.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of characters who, I don't know, I'm trying to make
Machi?
a segue and it's not working. Machi shows up and
no, it's fine. Yes.
She's got the fingerless glove aesthetic, so she's immediately the best girl.
Yes, that's the way, yeah. Well, yeah, because, what, Ponzu? Like, what girls have we seen so far? Like, not against Machi, but it's also like, Mito, I guess. Like, there's a very small, it's a very, male-dominated, just character cast-wise. Like, look, looking at the popular poll that we're going to get to, Ponzu is, there for, a couple, 3 chapters or something, and she's 9th place. She's more popular than Kite, than Wing. That was about the only notable ones, because, everyone else is, but still. Just because, even the, okay, I like how with the popular poll, there's, little comments that have got, I guess, generalizing what the readers were saying. And for Ponzu, it's she's so cute. I wouldn't mind being stung by her. And it's wait, hold on. Excuse me? What was that?
No, it is...
We'll get back to the popular poll, but I just wanted to point out, very few girls, and here's a very notable looking, and she's a spider, so that's, oh shit. But
you just slipped to Machi. I'm Ponzu's not a spider. What are you talking about?
Sorry, I'm going back to Machi. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, no, this is another moment I've talked about in videos in the past. But this is really good because it you take a character who has already been established in Hisoka, and you have them bounce off of a new character to then establish that character, so that when a bunch of new characters in the Phantom Troupe show up, we know Hisoka, and we also now know Machi. And so, it helps ease you into
the door, so, yes.
This big group that is the Phantom Troupe. It's a lot to introduce, 13 or so characters at once. So
absolutely, right.
Togashi is just kind of, getting one out of the way now, and I like that stuff. I like the little details.
The little details of... Anyway, but yeah, and also, it is a reveal that, Hisoka is with the spiders. He's not... even, takes off his tattoo and just throws it away. So it's, he's not, which, very... gets... he's fickle, and he does, leave the spiders later.
Yeah.
But, it's... It's a good reveal because, he's with the spiders, but he's not particularly, loyal. He's, It just serves him, so he's fickle about it because he's Hisoka. And I guess we get more of the he has a shower scene, so you get some man service, some more of that. What? How did you say it earlier? Raw sexual energy. I forget exactly how you said it. But yeah. So yeah, I guess before we go to the back to Golden, we'll do the popularity poll.
Oh,
because holy fucking shit!
Wait. I wasn't quite done with the Hisoka scene.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you weren't done.
Because
sorry.
There was another little detail that I thought was interesting. That his arm, his little stub arms, they're not bleeding. But when Machi's okay, turn the aura off around that area. Stop projecting aura there. And so that's just another small thing that you can stop bleeding with your aura, which. I can't think of a situation where that's ever been a major plot point, but it's an interesting detail.
Yeah, I didn't think about I didn't notice that until this chapter where I thought that was interesting because you just see it very he turns it off, and maybe it was not in the anime because it is a bit graphic, how do you get this across maybe 99, which I didn't watch, but in 2011 maybe they didn't include this part.
Yeah.
Because he just turns out the video and it just suddenly it starts gushing blood, and it's yeah, where at this point 2011 was less, like I said, less graphic and violent, so they probably wouldn't have quite adapted that, at least not the same way. And yeah, seeing the first aid treatment and it's kind of neat because Hisoka's even doing some of the treatment himself, with the texture surprise to make his arm look completely healed.
Yeah, and it's also a way of it shows us what Hisoka's powers are. It's the introduction to the explanation. Which is also kind of... I don't know. This scene is also interesting for spoiler reasons. Like, viewing this scene in, knowing that another scene happens later. Very similar circumstances, but different outcome. It's really interesting.
Yes. I would love to talk about that, but not today.
What I also think is kind of interesting is that, like, immediately here, like, we've only just been shown that, like, hey, Hisoka's in the troop. Oh wait, Hisoka's not in the troop. It's time to hunt down the spiders. Like, right off the bat, like,
yeah,
I forgot that
right,
got
he's there because he wants them.
It's set up that quickly.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
yeah.
I remember, like, specifically the leader of the spiders being the point, but here it's like it's time to hunt down the spiders, like all of the spiders.
Right, he likes his fights, and all the spiders are tough guys. So yeah.
I guess it's just a little thing I didn't remember being set up at this point.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the popularity poll, or starting the popularity poll, because holy shit, there's a giant gulf again. It's like
Killua, Kurapika, and then Gon is like 10,000 votes behind, which it's always funny whenever like the main character gets like blown out in a popularity poll. But like in this case, I wouldn't say, some people would say like, oh, with Ichigo, it's because Ichigo is such a bland protagonist and he's so characterless and
Well, even like, because I don't remember, like, yeah, Ichigo definitely like ranked lower, but like I don't remember the gulf being quite this large. Where I think Bleach's polls were more balanced, a bit, like where this is like Kilo and Karapika got literally like 2/3 of the votes single-handedly. Compared to the rest, so it's like it is a major.
Did that
gulf,
also happen in Yu Yu Hakusho? Like it was Hiei and Kurama who got the votes, and then Yusuke's just kind of like third, or was it not quite that much?
I thought I remember Yusuke. Yusuke was. I remember Yusuke doing better. Like it was more like 7,000 to like Hiei and Kurama's over 10,000. Was so not quite as big a like blowout, but like still pretty far down. So yeah, and like then like fourth place is Hisoka at like under half of Gon's, so it's like Jesus.
I think it's kind of funny looking at the comments. Like there's Killua, it's like I want him as a little brother, and then Leorio's like I wish you were my big brother. It's
Yep. I want to be Gon's friend.
Yeah. Then there's the one which is like Kurapika. Is he a man or a woman? Is he a man? Like,
excuse me. And Hisoka is scary, but I love him. And of course I mentioned Ponza earlier because that's like I wouldn't mind being stung by. Excuse me. With Kites, it's like I wish I saw more of him. Where is he? But it's like we don't know anything about him, but he's still my favorite. Like, okay, guys. Oh, so Wing, it's like I wish he were my tutor. Marry me. Okay, that's interesting.
Oh wait, it's funny that you mentioned Illumi not having like the dots in his eyes because here he does.
Oh yeah, you're right. They're there. Huh? That's weird. I thought because I don't remember them, but I guess I was wrong. Maybe it's because like in the comments someone saying his eyes are cute and it's giving him humanity because like my eyes are cute. Obviously. And so this is the only time in the entire manga where he was drawn like that. But no, I'm probably wrong. I'm just thinking. Maybe I'm thinking about the 2011 anime. I do like how. Like, because I talked about it back with Dark Tournament Toguro, too. Like, Togashi uses, like, the eyes in ways that I haven't really picked up. I mean, you're the one who's mostly pointed out to me, for the most part. So maybe I just don't pick up on it. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, really, the only things I've picked up on were the stuff that, like, he mentioned himself. Or no. Yeah, kind of. Like,
yeah, that's the
with Cannery.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's fair. But anyway, Gon gets his thing released. They watch the tape, and they sort of they get a test where they're learning Gyo, the focus so that they could see the Nen strands.
It's really interesting, like coming back and
on.
seeing them like learn this after knowing what all they're able to do with it later, because it's like. Wow, because it does sound like a lot to have to kind of like memorize and process to do. Like, oh, you have to concentrate your aura in your eyes, and then also like you'll be able to do this in combat one day. It's like what? So it's just like, also there's a fucking so when it sets up like when they lead into like the fights or like they're gonna set up the next fights, there's just a random cutaway panel where it's like you have to master Gyo by the time you fight, and it's just like a crowd of people, and they're just like these random ass character designs.
One of Togashi is fucking with super detailed like level of like detail, and one of them's just like a Native American for no reason. Like Togashi, okay. But anyway, there's a whole thing with the one guy with the weird face who kidnaps Zushi and, you know, trying to force them to fight. And of course, like, by, like, going outside of the fights, like, they give Killua, like, because he threatens him, and, like, I do like the panel where it's like, it seems like he's getting killed at first, but no, actually, Killua's just behind him with a knife. And being the edgy boy, being the scary edgy boy, run.
Yeah, and I like the comment he makes where he says, you know, like he's trying to make an honest living. He's like, man, this is tough. Like he can't, because if he wasn't with Gon, he would probably just kill these guys, and that would be that.
Right, like he's already changing and trying to be someone who's not controlled by his family in that way. So, which is good. Because good boy.
I also like how you can sort of divide this arc up into like little sections. You have like the learning net, like the mystery of Nen sort of section where, you know, leading up to about like the Castro fight where, you know, things start to get explained, and it's like, okay, here is now like the learning training with Nen thing, and then, you know, they fight
the fighting.
Yeah,
with
they
Nen.
fight like the three guys, and then that leads into the fight with Hisoka, which is kind of like the finale.
Yep. I'm not sure how much I have to say about many of the fights. Like, I do love the moment where Gon, like, fishes up the fucking tile to trip up the top guy. It's just, like, so over the top. I'm like, what? And, I remember it caught me off guard, because it's just so, like, it's big, and he just does it. Like, with a fishing rod, like, we already knew he was competent with it, but, like, goddamn. Now he's strong enough to pull up, like, rocks with it, basically, or, you know, big weights.
Oh, and then there's the part where, you know, before the fighting, where the other two characters, after the one guy gets scared off, they're like, oh, you know, we can still do this, you know. We like, we've got this. He's just scared of us because he doesn't know our abilities. And then Killua's like, wrong. And he's just, like, at the door. And it's like, be sure to play by the rules, because once the rules are thrown out, we'll be the ones who benefit the most. And they're just like, you know, cheating is wrong. Fair and square is the way to go.
That is a good moment.
Yeah, it's definitely also like somewhat a comedy relief sort of section. Like, it's a lighter section to get in between, like, Castro dying and Hisoka, you know, losing his arms and stuff before, like, the fight with Gon and Hisoka. Because you've got, you know, there is some seriousness here, like, you know, Gon, like, punching and, like, shattering the, like, you know, whatever this, like, steel top leg is. Yeah. You know, you see, like, the blood on his knuckles, and it's, you know, so it gets across the severity of, like, don't fuck with us, because you're not going to end well for you.
Yeah, and then there's a bit later with the electricity whips, and Killua just like, don't worry. He's like, please catch me, and I'm like, yeah, I will. I'm here for you. Like, it's not.
See, but you also get, it's interesting that, like, he gets electrocuted here, which it makes me wonder, did Togashi just sort of, like, come back to this later and decide to make it Killua's ability, or is this something like he was sort of playing with the idea here? Because he does say, like, you know, I've been trained to withstand torture. That only means I can tolerate it. It still hurts, and it doesn't make me happy. So it's like, you know, he's clearly not happy that he's just been electrocuted, because he still feels it, even if it doesn't, like, knock him out. It doesn't, like, it pains him, but it doesn't, like, you know, he can withstand it.
Yeah.
And then there's just the panel of him catching the guy, and the guy's like, oh no.
Well, it's just the perfect panel to get across, like, his soft edginess, because openly it's like, yeah, it's warm and soft. He's here for you. He's going to save you. But then there's the lightning edge, all the jagged lines of the lightning, and it's like he falls right into it. So edgy, the soft edgy boy. And then of course we get Gon's fighting the same guy, which that was cool. Like, that happens pretty infrequently like this, where you just get two characters fighting the same or two fighting the same person, you know. And they win in their individual ways, of course. Like Gon is like, I'm gonna turn it on to max, and the guy just faints. Because he already knows the pain. Like, I guess it's like, triggering that sort of like trauma of like.
Oh yeah, because Killua just electrocuted him.
Right. He knows how they feel, so he's just like, yep. Rest in peace, dude.
You also get some good shots where the characters just like sticking out their tongues of just being like, meh. Because Gon's like, just kidding, I'm not gonna electrocute you. I didn't even need to. And there was something with Killua earlier. I mean, maybe I don't remember now. Oh, there it was. Yeah, where he's like, oh, I went to attack him from behind, but I jumped too high, so he was able to dodge.
Yeah, more sticking taking out is his own mistake in that case. Yep. But it's good. So anyway, now we get the Nen test with the abilities in the water. And of course, like, yeah, they train for a little bit and are able to like change the water a lot, and they graduate from Wing.
What I also
they've learned their.
I was gonna say what I also like about the Nen system is that characters can learn different abilities from different categories. It's just that they might not be very good at them, or it'll take them longer to master it. Right. Whereas, like, like Naruto has, like, the elemental system, and it's like, oh, you're wind nature, so that's just what you are. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna learn... I mean, like, I guess you can use different...
They can, they're just, like, it's similar in that regard, but also, like, generally speaking with jutsus, as characters use very few jutsus when they could technically learn anything,
yeah.
I guess, is the thing with Naruto. Where, like, with Nen, it's like... They can, it's just heavily de-incentivized. Like, yeah, there's nothing stopping Gon from trying to learn Hisoka's, bungee gum, but, like, it's not going to be an ability attuned to him, so it'll just take him way longer, like, if he could even learn it at all.
And basically. There are examples later where characters are able to kind of, like, manipulate their abilities to do different categories. Like, Gon in particular gets, like, he kind of changes it to, I think, have, like, 3 different sort of styles for 3 different attacks, but... Obviously, the one is the strongest because that's, his category.
Yeah, well, even then, like, it right, well, because I'm going to say, like, Netero, I'm pretty sure is, he's an enhancer, but his big, like, it's manipulation. So he's, and, like, I think his strongest attack is, like, listed as emission, manipulation, and transmutation. So it's like, he's an enhancer, but he's never shown using... like direct enhancement Nen like for his abilities, but he's still really he's like one of the strongest characters we see, and so like, but he's also like old and he's been training for so long that he can do that, so that like it's not quite like one for one, like, oh, transmuters all use so it's like it's versatile. Like that's what I really like about the Nen system is it is versatile. Like there's even like he included the specialist category for like other abilities, like abilities he came up with that don't fit into his system at all. So, and of course, like, like they all have their limitations, but because these two things are opposed, like it's harder to come up with abilities that include both of those, because like the character, like with Castro, he had to train for years, stuff like that. So it is a limited system in its way, but it's still well designed and able to get across what it needs to, So it's a perfect system for Hunter x Hunter, obviously. But yeah, I think all we have left is Gon versus Hisoka.
Sorry, I had to let a cat out of my room. I didn't hear what you just said.
It's about time for Gon versus Hisoka.
Okay.
Which, again, like really great animated fight, especially in the anime. It still looks, like you said, choreographed in the manga.
What I think is kind of interesting about... like, the 1999 anime kind of adapts these fights in a different order, and it sort of changes what they're going for. Because, like, the fight with Gon and Hisoka happens, like, not first, because, like, the Castro stuff happens, but then, like, Gon fights Hisoka first, and then, like, after that, they deal with the 3 mooks, which is, I don't know. It's something I'd have to rewatch and think about again.
That is kind of weird because, like, they're practicing their abilities and, showing their stuff before they actually get the Hisoka fights. So, yeah. Looking at, like, reading now, flipping through now, like Gon does the stone tile flip on Hisoka, and that has a different context if you put the Mook fights after, because like he starts doing that in the Mook fights, and it's like surprising. Like he came up with it to deal with the top guy, and that's something he learned and applied to the Hisoka fight too in a different way. So it's like there's a difference between like learning it and using it, because like he uses it before he learns it, basically in 99, or rather he learned it in a different time. Like he just does it for Hisoka to do it, where in the Mook fight he does it, he learns it as a way to like get around something he can't do otherwise. Like so it is a very different context, and I don't know how it works for 99. Obviously I haven't watched that far, but yeah. But yeah, and of course after the punch, Gon gives the badge back and Hisoka takes it, like, yep, he gave him a punch like, Gon got before. But of course, like, after passing that test, Hisoka actually starts using his Nen. And,
I am just looking back at, like, these initial exchanges, and for how much, like, Togashi's manga tend to be full of dialogue, like, just looking at, like, we got a couple, like, just flipping through pages, we got, like, 6-7 sort of pages where it's just, like, characters just fighting and, like, dodging and moving and stuff, where there's, like, I mean, there's sound effects, but there's no real, like, dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is, it's, like, it is pretty different from, it's, like, other fight, like, like you said, other fights, and where there is more just dialogue in general.
I also think the way that, like, the
Togashi.
point system of Heaven's Arena works is interesting, because like, in that exchange, you have, like, multiple blows being dished out, but it only sort of results in, 1 point, because it's only really, like, the hits that, like, will, like, I don't know, like, actually, like, deal sort of significant damage, where, like, because, like, as long as you, like, I guess, like, you get punched, but, like, you keep going, like, it doesn't stop your momentum, like, it doesn't count as a point, whereas, like, when Gon literally gets, like, pushed way back, then it's like, there's the point. And I mean, like, the judging system, I guess, is, like, a part of this fight as well.
Right, because the guy, he, like, he doesn't want Gon to get too hurt, Like, he's having some, like, concession towards him for being a kid, where, like, Hisoka is, like, the concessions Hisoka's are making are because, like, he wants to fight him when he grows. Like, there's the big, like, part of the fight where Hisoka's being a creepy fucker, where, like, he's getting the shit kicked out of him, and, like, in the anime they added the moaning noises, and it's just like, oh, God, why?
Like, so, like, it's a fight that is designed to end prematurely, in a way. Because, like, it's not a fight Hisoka, where there are, like, it's not a life or death fight. It's just enough to show that, like, Gon has made improvements, and Hisoka is, like, testing that ability, but he's also trying to, like, keep the seed planted that, like, he wants Gon to be stronger, and, like, there's still a very big gap between them.
And I do like how the referee ties into it, because he's being very favorable to Hisoka because he doesn't want Gon hurt. Like, he doesn't want to see a child die today. He knows how dangerous Hisoka can be. Hisoka's literally murdered, like, over half of his opponents in the here. So it's like, he obviously doesn't know, like, the personal context between them, but so yeah.
Yeah, because, like, Hisoka definitely doesn't fight in a way that it's like, I'm going to injure Gon, I'm going to kill Gon here. Like, I mean, it ends with him just kind of, like, casually flicking a rock towards him.
Yeah. Right, like, Hisoka could have, like, won at any time, basically. He's literally...
Yeah, it's kind of like what he did with Castro, where with Castro it was more about putting on a performance, and, like, he could have probably... Because Machi even makes a comment, like, you're an idiot, like, you didn't have to lose your arms in this fight, but no, he did that to, like, because it made it more entertaining for him. And then, so, like, with Gon here...
He's an entertainer, he's a clown, he's a showman, like, there's a level of, like, that to it, too. As you were saying, that makes sense.
Also, it's kind of funny that there's this, like, little cutaway. I would imagine this is maybe a reference and not, like, maybe the joke is it's just a totally random guy here who's, like, talking about the judge's personal styles. Like, I don't know, the design of the character looks like it, I don't know, it looks like a slightly different art style for Togashi. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if it's a reference or if it literally is just a random guy and that's the joke. But I know...
Oh, wait, are you talking? It's Baka Oji. It's King. It's level E.
Yeah, but not in the
The
manga.
announcer guy? No, that is him in the manga. It's supposed to be. Like, the guy even asks, like, who the fuck are you?
Well, I don't know, because, like, in the 1999 anime, because that was what I was going to get to, is that, like, in the 2011 anime, it's adapted as, you know, the idiot prince, like, Bakuoji. He's
right.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
In the 1999 anime, it's, like, Togashi's avatar as, like, a stand-in. He's this random guy.
Oh, so they swap it out.
But,
yeah.
like, this doesn't look like...
Because, like...
This doesn't look like the guy from Level E.
That's what bothered me, because I'm pretty sure it was... I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be him, but yeah, it doesn't look like him, kind of. But it's like, well, it's weird because like there's the person who's even saying like, or no, I thought there was someone. No, yeah, there's like, oh, I see. Who are you anyway? Like he's supposed to be kind of a non sequitur, so it's like, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like Bakoji just like coming in because I guess that's how 2011. But maybe that's not how it is in the manga. But like if not,
well, yeah, because I know like that's what the
right,
2011 anime
him.
did, and that kind of makes sense
So
because
maybe
Level E came
like,
out around about like
true,
it came out a little
so,
before Hunter x Hunter in about the same year.
Yeah, so maybe it's not supposed like I just assumed it was because it was in 2011. So maybe and he is like I guess he has long hair, but yeah, the nose is completely different. In particular
because like we read the Level E manga. I know how Togashi draws Bakuoji, and this is not how he draws that character.
You're right. Okay, I just like I said, I assumed because the 2011 was like that.
But yeah, I do think it was fun how like the different anime adaptations had like different little jokes. Like replacing this character, which is why I thought maybe like the manga version was a reference to something, something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess now because that's what I was wondering myself now is like what if the 2011 anime adapted he referenced Level E, the 1999 referenced the author himself. So what was the original manga attempting to reference like? Maybe it was like because there was what was the name of the demon who worked with Sensui? Why can't I remember that? Izumi? Itsuki, that was it. Yeah, like they mentioned like a TV show so maybe it was a reference to like an actual like actor or a TV show host or something like that. That would maybe would have been I don't know.
Maybe because like I looked it up on the Wikia, but I didn't see it like noted as like being a reference, so I don't know.
But on the Wikia, like also it's edited primarily by like Western audiences, so we might not understand the reference if there's one, so now I'm more confused than I was when I read it, because as I read it, I was just like, yeah, that's Bakuoji, even though it doesn't look like him at all. But yeah, one thing I did want to say about the fight is like, because Hisoka attaches a bungee gum to Gon, and it's kind of like another version of his test that he gave in the first phase, where it's like, do you run or do you fight? And Gon passes. He goes right into Hisoka, and Hisoka he basically just like he says like, I wish I could demolish you right now. Like he basically lets Gon get the hits off, and he rewards him for passing his test basically before, like, pulling the comeback and winning in, like, 2 pages. Or no, more than 2 pages, but still.
Yeah.
And yeah, more good, like, creepy Hisoka art. Like, he's like there's the one where he says, like, I wish I could demolish you right now. That's hyper detailed in itself. And he's, like, licking his lips, like, Jesus fucking Christ, you creepy clown. And then there's the later one under the House of Cards where he's like getting like spewing blood, but he's also like in ecstasy. Like he's
no.
He's like, yeah, he's a creepy clown.
Yeah, this is the arc where like that personality trait definitely gets like more emphasis. So I guess in a way it kind of like humanizes him a bit more because he's not just the creepy, scary, spooky dude. Like he's the creepy, scary, spooky dude who also is creepy in a different way.
Yeah.
I also think it's kind of funny when he is when he's going through like his personality examination and like he makes fun of Gon like, oh, you shouldn't be so, you shouldn't admit it. I didn't even but then there's also like the cutaway to Zushi where he's like, I wish he'd tell us about manipulators, because you know what that makes me think of in particular, to make it like a Nen Show tie-in. It makes me think of in Rave when they're going through the powers and they specifically take the moment to mention Sieg. and how he's like
he's got the infinity element. Like,
and so like it.
That's right, because it's just a weird random aside, but it's like it makes no sense for it happen to Rave. It does make sense in Hunter x Hunter, but like there's characters in the audience who are actually disappointed because
because like whenever that does happen, generally it's like getting it across to the audience. So it's like, oh, okay, what are these personalities? Like you'd think maybe like this would be the chance to do it because the topic has been brought up, but then he doesn't do it because like obviously in universe. Why would Hisoka want to explain, like, okay, here is what a manipulator is, here is what a specialist is. Like, there aren't any of those characters in this particular fight, so there's no reason for him to do it. And it's sort of like the calling attention to
In fact, like, we don't even know, like, we don't, at this point in the story, we don't know any, like, specialists, emitters, or any of that. Like,
because we know that Killua was also a transmuter, and so you get the little panel where Hisoka says, I'm a transmuter, a whimsical, and a liar, and Killua's got like a little blush, and he's like, that's true, which almost seems to imply like, I mean, like he's like a whimsical liar, like we see how he was in like the Hunter exam when he was all...
He's a sneaky cat boy, yeah. So he's got that, and there's also, of course, to mention that, they can be good friends with enhancers, and of course, what are Gon and Killua? But good friends, and Hisoka does have a weird relationship with Gon, and they are kind of like each other.
But what's also cool is Hisoka even says like, be careful, transmuters are fickle. What used to be valuable can instantly, be not that. And so like you think about that's kind of tied into Killua's character arc because that's a big point in like the Chimera Ant where it's like, oh, you'll leave Gon to die. And Illumi was even saying, like, you're just gonna want to kill him one day. Like, he's not actually your friend. And so, like, it ties into Hisoka, but it also kind of has, like, the secondary meaning and, like, how it applies to Killua.
Yes. And we do get the full explanations in between, like, the chapters, just as a volume extra. And, like, yeah, they still, like, Leorio is an emitter. He's impatient and not very detail-oriented. So, though actually think about that I'm curious as to like, how, because that sounds like something that would be bad for a doctor. So,
well, then again, it does say the traits are arbitrarily decided by Hisoka. So,
right. So it's like obvious, but like that might fit his personality. But obviously, for a doctor, he would be training himself and rearing himself in. Like he's not going to act like that on the surgery table.
I'm a doctor. I don't really care about the details though.
Right, that was the part that got me. And then of course, conjurers are high strung, Kurapika, and manipulators are logical and do things at their own pace. Zenji, he's just like Wing even says, like, don't compare yourself to them. Do things at your own pace. So. And there's more, I'm sure, like, they don't all apply because it is very cold reading, but it is I expect it to apply to the major characters, just because, like, Togashi gave us this information, why not use it? Look at it. And also, like, see how they're similar and different, in that way. Like you said, it is important. It's like a point of tension for Killua's character. It's like, is his fickleness going to, like, hurt Gon? Because, like you said, it's like, oh, you're going to kill Gon and leave him for dead. And that's the opposite of what happens in a certain very important moment, So, like, yeah. But yeah, the fight does end. Hisoka even says, like, next time it'll be life or death. But Gon's ready to fight again. He's like, not right now, but he's like, I want to get there one day. And then the arc ends very abruptly, where it's just like, yeah, let's go to Whale Island. We don't need to be here. We've met our goals. Let's go. It's like, wait,
yeah. Yeah. So again, it definitely has like
about that way more than
it's like a different sort of, I don't know, like the
anticlimax.
Yeah, it's a different kind of anticlimax because in the Hunter exam, it was very like thematic. It was about like Gon still owes these favors, and it's not about, what's done is done, you passed, you got your license, and if you're not satisfied with your performance, you got to get better and improve for the future. Whereas, like, this arc, it's more about, like, there are more details about Heaven's Arena that were just kind of left there, because, like, that's not what they were focused on. I don't know, maybe there's like a theme again about the anticlimax that could, because like I said, like the Zoldyck family also kind of does something similar with the anticlimax, and maybe there's something more to talk about with Yorknew, and maybe there's a bit of an anticlimax sort of ending there. But I'm not sure, like, what all these would
talk about Yorknew.
mean. Like, what does it mean that some of these arcs are, they end it with the anticlimax? Like, what does that say?
Well, I guess maybe you could say it ties to, like, the overall thing, like, as, why I've heard people argue that the 2011 ending is, like, a perfectly fine ending for the series, with, like, or mostly Alexander is what he says, where, like, it's not about the ending, it's about the adventure, the journey. So, like, the endings are these, anticlimaxes, but, like, obviously what's important is getting there, like, what happened in the meantime, because, like, yeah, it does end in these organic ways, and
you're right, because, like, especially thinking of how the 2011 anime ends with, like, it sets up this, like, larger, bigger world, and it's like, yeah, but, we're not really going to explore that, which makes me think of, like, Heaven's Arena, where, like, we are setting up, there are more aspects to Heaven's Arena, but, I guess as far as, like, being sort of like a real world thing, like, you're not always going to experience every aspect of everything you encounter, and so maybe that's kind of the idea being got across.
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, which is fair. Like, compare 2011 as just a standalone thing to One Piece, where One Piece is that big adventure exploring the entire world, and it's also, like, way longer. Like, even just the anime is already, like, 3, 4, 5 times longer than Hunter x Hunter's anime, where the manga is obviously it's padded and there's filler and stuff, so it's not quite a fair comparison. But even the manga is over, like, twice as long as the Hunter x Hunter manga, so very different, like, but, I mean, Hunter x Hunter's, like, obviously they're not going to explore the whole Dark Continent, but, yeah, it's, I guess, that's what I would take from the anticlimaxes, is that, like, yeah, the ending doesn't matter as much. Like, it's not that it's unimportant, but it's, like, how it ends isn't as important as getting there, so to speak, at least, by the words of Ging, so, yeah, but anyway, now that we are done with those, that was a long discussion. So, like, I guess as individual arcs, I would put Heaven's Arena above, like, Zoldyck family, personally, because, like, but both of them do a lot in setting up, like, the general, like, stuff going forward and the world as a whole, and obviously Nen abilities, while also just being, perfectly fine in their own right. Like, Hunter Exam I definitely prefer, because that's a really good opener. There's a lot of good stuff there. With these, like, it's good. But, like, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Like, it's, I don't know, the Zoldyck family one is, it's a tough one to, like, dig into, because it is so short, and so it's like, what is, I guess, the story here? Like, what is the sort of narrative, and, like, the theme, and, like, the like, beginning and the conclusion and everything, because it kind of, I don't know, it's really short, so that's maybe the only... Yeah,
because really what it accomplishes... Yeah, like, what it's there to accomplish is really, like, setting up the Zoldyck family and getting an introductory into these family dynamics, and we do get a lot of information, but yeah, as an arc, it's just kind of like, it's a thing that happens, more or less, where Heaven's Arena, like, it has more of a distinct, like, beginning, middle, and end, and, like, yeah, it's anticlimactic, but, like, yeah, go and fight Hisoka, it's a climactic end fight, and then they leave, It makes sense. So yeah. Anyway, now that we're about done with that, next time we're gonna have a 5-hour discussion, dear God help me, on the Yorknew arc, which is it's gonna be chapters 64 to 119. So that's 55 chapters of Hunter x Hunter. Help! Help! I hope it's a good discussion, but also, holy shit, we can't stop talking. Mathwiz, who's invested, is too powerful. Let's go back to Fairy Tail, where the discussions are short, because she just is like, yeah, okay, sure. No, it's fine. I love it. I do like it. It's just, I was expecting this to be shorter, not 2.5 hours long. It's like, what, 25 chapters? Oh, God. Anyway, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.